Okay, so I call this meeting to order.
Yes, you can.
As Vice Chairman, I don't have the directions in front of me. It's the
Oh.
first time doing this, so I'll kind of go by
Okay.
memory. First
So-
thing is the Pledge of Allegiance, so.
Yep.
I'll stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it's roll call. You can go by your agenda. Yeah.
I will. Roll call?
It's right
Huh?
Yeah.
On top of the agenda, it says it.
Yeah. Okay, so, starting on the right, to my right, and I don't have an updated list of contacts in here.
There you go.
Thanks. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I got that. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Starting off on the right foot.
I'm just glad it's not me.
Gotta love it.
Actually, can you state that?
It's gonna be.
The day and the commission meeting?
The day and the, so today is Wednesday, September 11th.
And it's the
2019?
Town of Monroe and then Wetland Commission.
Town of Monroe Inland Wetland Commission. Okay, so starting on my right, Keith Romano, Commissioner, Clark Gingras, Ross Massaraco, Jim Stewart, who's a professional licensed surveyor, PI. What's a PI mean?
Well, generally, we mean private investigator, but
I know.
not one of those.
Are is that supposed to be PLS?
A PE?
PE?
PELS? Yeah.
Okay. Professional engineer, licensed land surveyor. I'm Jeff Shamus, soil scientist, certified professional wetland scientist, certified ecologist. And to my left, Lois Spence is the secretary. Donna Szynski, sorry, office manager. I
That's
did-
all right. Denise
Denise
Halsted
Halsted
is our inland
Inland
wetland
wetland
agent.
agent,
And
and
Sarah
the
Stroh.
recording secretary, Sarah Stroh.
Very good.
Got everybody covered?
We got everybody
All right.
covered. So the next thing is the voting.
Yes.
Hi.
So,
I
who wants to be
think-
chairman?
We probably, someone needs to nominate a person or whoever they want.
All right, I nominate Keith.
Okay, so we have Ross.
I would like to nominate Jeff Shamus.
Oh, because I'm starting off so well tonight?
Yes, because you've already got one meeting under your belt.
Okay, yes. Do I hear any other nominations? Okay.
Interested?
Yeah, well, not me. Don't worry
Yeah.
about that.
All right, so then we notice that whoever. Okay, so then, we need to take a vote. All those in favor?
Can't we have a few words from each other?
Need a second nomination? We have two
Why this is important to
I
them?
don't think you need to second it. It's up to you guys,
What's that?
whether you need to
Can't
second
second
a nomination. It's just a matter of voting.
Oh,
I don't think
if
you
you
need.
just nominate, you nominate.
Right, there's not enough of you if everybody. All in favor of Keith becoming chairman, say aye.
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 I'm gonna say aye.
So how many ayes do I have?
5.
3, no, 1, 2,
You got a lot.
1, 2, 3, 4. And those in favor of Jeff being chairman?
Aye.
Okay,
It wouldn't matter anyway.
no,
You
2?
take
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so
Doesn't matter
Keith is our chairman.
4 means 2. I move over.
You get to move over,
Yes, move
Keith.
over.
There you go.
Good.
You get the gavel,
Good luck.
and keep the gavel on that side of the table.
Remember his Jim with the gavel.
Just keep it banging.
I'm more lost than you are, so.
That's all right.
Well, we'll work together.
We'll try and help you through it.
Work
All right,
together.
so this is,
So just go down the
agenda.
Okay, so this is the part of the meeting where we, general public participation. If anybody has anything to say of a general nature or anything, right? Is that
Right.
basically it?
And this would be when our Boy Scout, who's coming up, who has something to say.
This is the first time ever.
So come up to the podium, introduce yourself with your name and address.
Hello, I'm Corey Barber. I live on 224 Meadow Street in Shelton, Connecticut.
Okay, and the reason that you're here.
I am here for my Eagle Scout project, which is to build a bridge, and it's partially on Shelton and Monroe. So, yeah, it's on the trail. It's on the Pegasset Trail or Pegusa Trail, however you guys like to say it. And so it's spanning the gap over that water, and as you can see, and we basically laid out strings so you could visually see where it's going to be laying, and give you guys a visual representation of what it will look like, somewhat, without really a 3D portion of it. But, so that's what it's going to look like when it's spanning the gap. The reason why I chose here is because a little bit up the gorge, there's tiny little rocks that you have to step to get across the gorge. And when the water is higher than it is now, which it gets decently high, it gets like 2 or 3 more feet higher there, it's very hard to cross. And I've tried and it's not fun. So, yeah, and yep, and there's the picture before, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken.
Go to the next picture. I know, I'm trying to, it's
Yeah.
saying it's saving, but don't save. It's because I
Because you rotated
rotated it.
Technology at its best.
Just kidding.
And I have rotated them when I put it on the drive.
That's funny.
So yeah, that's just how far apart, like, sorry, I have to rotate it again.
There we go.
So that's like the, how far everything is from each other. So the actual gap of the water is 8 feet. There's rocks that are, it's then crossed in order to get to the bridge, to get to the water portion. And the rocks are, well, one of them is 5 feet to 5.5 feet. And the other one is, I don't think I wrote that down, but I'm pretty sure, wait. It's 11, that's 4, about 9 feet. That's a new math there. But, yeah, so it's about 9 feet. So on one side there's gonna be, 2 feet from the rocks, and the other side's gonna be 4. So there's a sizable amount of gap for us to anchor it down and stuff like that. So I know that there's an actual like diagram somewhere else in this, if you want to hunt for that. Is that, okay, yeah, that. So that's the, what's again looked like from the side with the railing. Yeah, I know. And the bottom part is how the support joists are going to be together. It's going to be 16 foot and an 8 foot basically together, so it's overlapping. And there's going to be 3 of those, spanning a 24-foot bridge, making a 24-foot bridge, and it's going to be 4 feet wide. The railing's going to be approximately 3 feet. I made it 3 feet. And we were going to use 2x6s for the decking.
So Corey is basically here, this is his Eagle Scout project, and he's trying to learn the process of what he needs to do, or whether you guys, how you want to handle this. You know, what permits might be needed, or what type of review. He's looking for your guidance on this.
Just a question on each
Yeah.
shoreline. You're just digging those posts in the ground, or?
We were gonna take, I believe, my dad and I, we agreed upon 2x6s or I think it's 2x6s, and we were going to dig them down into the ground to anchor them down, and we were gonna also use rebar. And there's a tree right next to where the bridge is, and we were gonna chain it around it, because in the past, Shelton said that some of their bridges have drifted downstream.
Yeah.
So that's to prevent it from actually going all the way downstream.
Yeah.
So,
And you know that the height off of the bed or the top of water
and
is going to be high enough so that you have some leeway there, the space
So
between?
from the bottom of the bridge to the water, that's, yeah, actually wrote down something. It's about 53 inches, which is just under 5 feet, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mhm.
Has the water ever been over 4 feet?
Well, that's,
It's over
it was actually fairly low when we measured it,
Yeah, I know,
but,
Have you ever seen the,
I've seen it fairly high, but I don't think it was any more than 2 feet higher than, or not 2 feet, like a foot and a half,
okay,
or
'cause that's
something
the
like
only
that, more
thing-
than what it was.
he's wondering the same
Yeah.
thing I am, is
Yeah.
if you build that bridge too low, it's just
Yeah.
gonna become
Yeah, it's
rotted
pretty
wood.
high.
It's going to be to the height of the level bank on both sides.
Yeah.
Because we see these
Yeah.
things, well,
Mhm.
every nature trail has these bridges, so I don't see how it's any different than anything else. But I think the question here is, he needs to make an application, right? Is that-
That's what we're
It's
kind
your
of-
Yeah, so that's what
determination.
we're trying to determine, how we want him to apply to us to get permission.
Yeah.
Now there's a overall whole trail.
Can we,
Just a big one.
Whose property is this?
This one?
Keep
It's
going. It's another
basically the
farm.
border of Shelton and Monroe.
Okay,
So it's partially on Monroe and partially on Shelton,
I mean-
but the part that's
So
in
go to the
Monroe
next
is in Wet
page.
Mountain.
okay.
Yeah, it's the border, it's going into
So
Wet
it's
Mountain.
town property.
Yeah.
Monroe town property,
Yeah.
okay.
I put this on the
Yeah.
drive to kind of give, help with an overview. Maybe Corey could show where it might be.
All right,
Yeah, that works there, so feel free to,
pretty sure it's right about there where the mouse is,
with the hand.
right next to
Okay,
it.
okay.
Yeah. Round Hill Brook, I believe it says. Yeah. Yeah, it says Round Hill Brook. So it's on the border of Shelton and Monroe. So, yeah.
Is there other bridges like this anywhere near here? Or is this like, how far away is the
so-
closest one?
There are 3 other bridges in Wet Mountain that I saw, which have similar designs. They're not all the same, like, situations where, like, the water is and stuff like that. One of them is, right by the star, like, going into the trails, by the parking, actually, my bad.
Mhm.
The other one is by where the red and the green meet.
Okay.
No, not red and green, red and orange. I cannot.
It's all right, don't worry.
Yeah,
Blue and-
but it's over
Blue and
there.
orange.
Orange, green.
Yeah.
Blue and red?
Yeah, but it's over there, and they have fairly. I based my design off of what was already there.
And then including the distance from the bottom of the bridge to the.
Well, mine's higher from where theirs are.
The other ones?
Yeah, because they just made.
Span, the distance you're crossing is equal or less than the other bridges?
It's I didn't measure the other ones, but if I had to take a guess, I would say it's a little bit longer.
Okay.
Because I think my bridge is just longer in general. So.
And what is the depth of the board? Or is
Uh,
it two by what's are you using?
I'm using 2x10s.
2x10,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And you're spanning 8 feet, how much is?
An 8-foot gap with a 24-foot bridge.
Okay, so it's supported.
Yeah,
8 feet on either side of
Yeah.
yeah, but there's rocks too, so.
So how we
that's
want him
good.
to apply, sound like the hearing.
I would
Simple,
love
right?
to just have agent approval, to go through agent approval.
It's also, I think, yeah, I agree.
I think that's a good idea.
But it's
Without
also-
having to pay through
Yeah,
the
yeah.
application fee stuff.
Yeah, I would definitely say waive the application fee for this, I would
Mhm.
agree with that. But also, I think part of his experience here is to actually present to a board, right? Is that correct? It's not just the project,
Well,
but
it's
this
his,
whole
it's
project,
his
right?
project, so.
But is it, you're looking for the experience of presenting to a board, like
Um,
us? Is that part of it, or you just want to get the bridge built?
You have to get approvals from the town in order to actually build on their land, and, BSA Council wants to, for Eagle Scout projects, they want to see leadership, and they want the approvals from the town, so.
No, we gotta say, what
Oh.
Jeff had said was that you can get an agent approval without coming back here. But if part of your experience to do this is to actually present to the board, you can take the extra step and come back here and show us your full plans and kind of almost what we're doing. Sorry?
So I also, just another thing to think about, that because it's on town property and we happen to have our town attorney here, It does need to go before the town council.
Mm.
So you would have to go to the town council meeting and present to them. If you guys want to do an
I think you did a
agent.
good job presenting it here.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost
Um,
like a presentation.
Of both communities, just to make sure the legislative body of both
He's
communities
gone to,
approves it.
he's already done Shelton.
Yeah, I've gone to 2 Sheltons, so.
Just
Okay.
to make sure you have the
Yeah.
owner's permission to.
Yep.
Okay. So it sounds as if the, yeah, we were unsure.
That's what I'm wondering, if Wetlands on the.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out if you need Park and Rec as
Yeah, that's
well,
fine.
so.
Okay, so the commission would be comfortable with an in-office agent approval
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And waiving the fees.
Mhm.
and to waive the fees.
This is still doing the fees.
That's all right.
Hopefully Shelton treats you this good.
I only have
Are there any other requirements that you guys want to see? I mean, just, or to let the office know what, any guidelines? Is there, just to follow whatever building?
Actually, I have a question or two. if I may.
Okay, of course.
What material, is this regular wood, pressure treated wood, track
Use
stacking?
pressure treated because it's outside and that way it doesn't rot and be destroyed by time. Or its local time, so it'll be longer lasting.
Well, I have faith in our agent, who is an engineer, so she would be able to look at it and see that it does or does not conform to whatever we need. Other than that, I'm done.
So I think what we would need to do is if you could notify the office when you're going to present to town council. I would call the selectman secretary, Tanya Bombero, and possibly find out from her if we could get you on the agenda. I'm not sure where you would fall on the agenda for them. For us, we were happy to take you under just a conversation, which is probably what they'll do. And then just let the office know once you've gone to the town council so that we can get the feedback.
Conservation and there's inland wetlands in Shelton. Well,
Is that something where in Shelton we just finished the conservation and the trails commission, and they just, we haven't drafted it, like separate kind of going
Okay.
one day at a time.
I don't,
You have to go to PNC? That's why I was wondering,
I don't
maybe
know.
more Park and Rec, because they're the ones who govern a lot of the trails, that's, I don't know who the.
In
We'll-
Shelton, we don't have to go to public, but I do understand it's
Yeah.
different.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we're not sure about that, so you might have to come in and visit with us and maybe set up a meeting to talk with, our town planner, and I don't know if a building permit is required, or those things, you'll wanna check that.
I mean, I could talk to them since I've been communicating with you, and I could try to feel some of them out, you need a building permit or things like that.
all right.
Okay.
We will probably want a little bit more of a site plan, expand a little bit beyond, where
Or maybe,
the location, and I could help you with
Alright.
it if need be.
Okay.
all right, so it
Yeah.
sounds good, so why don't you contact Denise, when you figure out, once you talk to Tanya and see about the town council meeting,
Okay.
and give us a heads up on that, and we'll go from there.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Tell them
thank
that
you.
we have the file, so it's,
Alright.
okay,
Thank you and good luck.
no problem.
All right, now up to subdivision reports, we have nothing, right? Is that, when there's nothing here, you just say there's nothing.
There's nothing, we
It's
don't
like
have.
training wheels day, man.
It's okay, yeah, you all just have to put
All
up
right,
with that.
regulator activities, regular meetings, no public input, no public hearings.
You're doing great.
Am I?
Yes.
I feel like I'm not.
Fantastic.
We're moving.
Okay, enforcement, I guess we go right down to IWR 219-01, 3 Lower Circle, Gloria, restoration of disturbed regulated area. Hello?
Hello, good evening, everybody. Jim McManus, certified professional soil scientist with January Wetland Consulting Services, offices in Newtown. We were here last meeting, and we went through the plan violation, and we went through that discussion, and I guess you folks had a couple things you liked to see, and you got a plan in front of you, and one of the things was a planting
You
plan,
just got
physical.
this tonight.
Physical plan,
There's a new one on the bottom.
Yeah,
of your
the-
file.
Yeah.
physical planting plan showing the location of the proposed vegetation, and then the other thing was to move the wall. Some of the wall that we proposed before went through, was actually sitting in a wetland, so we have moved the wall to sort of mimic the wetland boundary, as you see on the plan.
And Jim, that's up there for you.
Here we go.
You can use the mouse and move it around and go wherever you want.
So here is the wall. The wall used to kind of go like that. Now we've sort of followed the wetland boundary. And there is a little cutout, a little call out.
Oh, you can drag it. The handle grab it.
Oh, what?
Yep, there you go.
This is just a call out of my report that was done last time, dated
You got
August
your
14,
originals.
2019, and I just spelled it out in language, and I had tables, and a table 1 and 2. And that planting plan just sort of takes my verbiage from this report and my tables and put it on a little plan where we're gonna put stuff. And that's about it. Any other questions?
You have barberry under the planting legend. Is that, you mean bayberry?
Barberry isn't supposed to be.
That's an invasive plant, I believe.
I see bayberry on mine.
It's bayberry.
Really?
I see
There's
bayberry.
Yeah, mine says
barberry.
barberry.
Over here.
Barberry.
On the
Somebody,
plan or on my
Oh,
table?
he-
On your
it's
planting
probably a
legend.
spelling mistake.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
it's,
On the big
Up on
ones
the
also.
map.
let me see here.
Right where the hand
condition,
is.
that's a condition.
on
But
the
in
bottom.
your other,
Change the
table
one
one is
letter
spelled correctly.
From R to Y.
Yes, that's a mistake.
Exactly.
Okay.
Engineers, you know these guys. It's supposed to be bayberry.
Yeah, because your table one is fine, it's spelled correctly there, but
Yeah.
it's over there, we're like,
I honestly didn't even look at that because I thought they just took my table and stuck it on the plan.
Who went out?
who was able to do a site visit?
I did.
I did.
I did also.
Did you spell it out anywhere as to how you plan on eradicating the frag
Where?
in the backyard?
I mean, where?
There's frag throughout the entire,
Yes.
around the edge of the pond, but it's also leaking into the driveway area.
That's part of the remediation activities.
So what is your
We're gonna
process?
completely dig it out.
You
get
dig
rid
it
of
out.
Dispose of it in the proper manner, and then re-topsoil, and then plant the plants that are on the table.
After seeing that, I was wondering, might some extra trees being planted there help to shade the area and keep that a little bit more under control?
That was the intent of the planting pages and plan, was to plant some of the trees, and, this planting plan can be, when we're out in the field, it might, some of these trees could be moved, but the idea was to put more trees back here and let them grow up and then shade the area. And then put a few trees out front, but might mainly kind of put the shrubs and such in here now remember, the frag that's here will no longer be there. To be more of not only a wildlife enhancement area and better vegetated than it is today, obviously, but also make it sort of pretty too, with some of the more attractive shrubs that we proposed. So I like to have the back grow up into larger trees and shrubs, and have the front be not so large, more like medium-sized to smaller shrubs. That was the idea. At least that was my idea.
It's funny, when you pointed out the willows, we were expecting willow trees,
No,
not
they're
not pussy
just-
willows.
No, they're not pussy
And they don't
willows.
grow as tall.
No, these are, pussy willows are, well, they're our name, but we like to grow them, or weeping willows, but those are more like black willows. There's probably some pussy willow out there, but
Oh,
those
yeah,
are more like
we
black.
saw quite a bit.
And those are sort of a shrubby, they're not gonna get real
Mm.
big,
Right, which was my point.
which is not a bad thing.
Mhm.
I don't really want a weeping willow out there.
No, I'm not saying that you do.
No, no, I'm just
I know
saying,
what
no,
they're
we
creating their
really
own
big,
issues.
I really don't want that. And willows grow quickly, as you know.
And the mugwort, how do you plan on getting?
We're actually gonna dig it out, re-topsoil, and then seed with the seed mix, and then plant the proposed shrubs in the proposed area.
In the areas where you're digging out the frag, right, and like, and you won't be necessarily planting in those locations, which I guess easiest thing is to call out like between wetland flags, 18, you know, that area just, south, right? Are you gonna, is it gonna be seed or just to stabilize if you're gonna dig out the frag and you're gonna topsoil? Just to outcompete,
I
you
was
know,
really-
frag from coming back in or something.
Yeah, that's always the challenge.
Yeah.
Now, let me backtrack just a little bit. Remember, from your walk, you probably saw a little bit of frag in like this area here. You recall that? You might not.
There was a little bit there, but
Right there,
the
that's-
big clump was.
Yeah, the big clump, we weren't really going to remove it because I think it's more of a hassle.
It goes right to the,
than it's worth.
like, into the
Goes
edge of the
into
pond.
edge of the pond.
Yeah.
And the pond is, the town has old pictures when it was first built, and it looked like a pretty nice pond.
Mhm.
That's not what we have now. We really have a mucky,
It's an emergent wetland.
virgin
kind of.
wetland
Yeah.
with some water, and it probably will sink to your knee if you step in it. So the pond has disappeared, it's no longer a landscape feature. However, the pond is dominated almost exclusively with common reed or Phragmites. So the area, now the pond does discharge down gradient. And I think it's more hassle than it's worth to get in there with the queen. Number two, it'll be an expensive task.
Well, you'd be
But
in
you're
the-
gonna have a lot of mucky sediments and siltation that's gonna head downstream and certainly onto the neighbor's wetlands. And I'm not sure if it's warranted, to be honest, because with the trees, with the vegetation that's there now and the willows and such, and hopefully our trees get nice and big, and I don't think it's gonna expand to the west. I hope not. That's why I want to get things established and trees in there. And the idea was to just sort of keep the frag where it is and then.
What about instead of digging it out, cutting and treating a couple of years just so that you could have the stuff started to get established? You know, just chop it, treat it, and,
Who's doing the treating, the landowner?
well, already hire somebody to cut it.
Good, I mean, we could discuss that, I'm sure, you know, we have.
Otherwise, it's right, like, it's right
I know, it's
there,
right
you
there.
know, and
Yeah.
Is this
I
gonna
hate to
keep
see you have to
getting-
do all that, like, remove material, then bring stuff back in when you can just kill the vegetation, right?
Well, that
for,
would be.
for that area,
In
yeah.
this particular area, the thing to do is not to dig it out, but to treat it. That would be the easiest way to do it. Because
And
that'd
the
be the
least
most,
expensive, too.
least
It's not-
invasive
doesn't-
and the least, less expensive way.
You need a weed whacker and something like that, or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
might
You
need
gotta
that.
treat it though, because if you weed whack, it's just gonna come back with more big, you
Yeah.
know, Jeff, it's just gonna,
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
yeah. So it would be multiple years of treat. Now, did we ever, I know we were discussing, let me see what I said. I said, that will be monitored for 2 growing seasons following the time that we finish the plantings. So, and I said, for instance, June or July of 2020. And,
We usually require 3, Jim.
yeah, so,
So,
the point being is, if we do 3, we gotta go out there anyway, so I guess we could see how the frag is doing, and hopefully it's not expanding crazy. And it'd be nice to treat at least a portion of it, at least treat, if we could, this section, huh?
Yeah,
If we back it off.
I
keep
wouldn't
it at
want
the
you
edge
in
of
the,
pond, huh?
yeah, because if you go in the pond, you'll have to use different material.
Different
I wouldn't
materials.
want you to have to,
I think I don't care about the pond at this point, because it's a lost cause. No, the only way to bring it back to its glory is to go in there with big machines and dig the whole thing out.
Yeah.
So I like to keep this sort of, put the frac back to where the edge of the pond is, and just let Mother Nature do what she does there. Treat it here and get these plants established, and Mother Nature be kind to me.
You said it discharges, where does it discharge from?
These continue, the whole wetland continues off-site to the, what's my arrow?
South?
That would be to the south.
Southwest.
It's quite wet in the neighbor's yard. He has a nice wooded swamp back there. Very similar to this, what this used to be like, with graded little intermittent narrow channels and everything just kind of making their way through.
I have a couple questions. Is this area intended to be, like, not used, but like walk through, like, as like, you know?
Passive recreation.
Is that?
Passive recreation.
Yeah, no.
Once the vegetation gets established, no one's gonna wanna go back there. That was probably one of the reasons why I wanted to keep a little gravel drive there, so the homeowner, the applicant here, can at least, have an access way if he wants to have his kids run around, not just stop at the wall. We'll have plantings here, but they'll be able to, move, meander around in here. And all this will eventually just be a vegetative community, both in herbaceous shrubs and in trees.
Over here by the, on the north side, this little retaining wall with the pipe, the head wall for the pipe, there was a piece of 15-inch maybe corrugated pipe there? Is that just
Where
left
are you
over?
now?
Right where you have the 1.5
Right in
foot
here?
retaining wall? Yeah, right there. I saw like a 15-inch corrugated plastic pipe in there.
Going
Is that
this
just
way?
a piece of extra pipe?
Going this way, you mean?
No, it was just, it looked like it was in the ditch.
Oh, is this thrown in there?
Yeah, and then there- Okay, and then that, they weren't sure what that was.
To get any permit, anything, so it's just the leftover.
And there's also, it looks like it's coming from the north direction. There's another white, plastic pipe
Yes.
coming into
The
that.
engineers wants to
Is that
just
the
tap on
neighbors?
the top and leave it alone.
Yeah, that pipe you see
We have curtain drains.
is what you can't see anymore, with this stone-lined, call it a curtain drain that he installed, which, we're gonna cap that to stop that dewatering
Oh, yeah.
and let the water meander to where it's supposed to go. Because he was trying to move it out of there. And he wasn't very successful, but he could have been. If he,
I think that could help with the frag.
huh?
That could help a little bit with the Phragmites too, if it gets a little
A
wetter.
little bit wetter, sure. I mean, that,
Okay.
you guys
So we
weren't
probably
there, but
wanna
I was there back
spell
in
that in,
May,
put
and
that
it
in
was
there.
really wet, even with all his drainage. Because it looked a lot different when I was there. All that, what you saw the other day was not growing when I was out there. So I actually did see the stone. But it was still wet all around there.
Like Keith was saying, is that, the capping off that curtain drain in your report? I can't
No.
remember.
The engineer in
Is
the
it on-
field, we're out in the field kind of brainstorming, and he said, we'll just cap that. And I honestly forgot that he said it, but now that we're here and the stone line ditch is there,
I guess we could just put it as a condition.
condition that we'll cap
Maybe pull the first 10 feet of section out,
right,
and you could do that and just, push dirt over it or something. It's gonna do the same thing. Sometimes you throw a cap on it, it's a perforated pipe, it's just gonna find the holes.
true.
So
I honestly
if
don't know
that's
what it
gonna
looks like.
benefit,
I gotta assume it's a perforated pipe.
it could be solid. We don't know.
I
didn't crawl under like a rabbit and find out.
Yeah. I don't know why it would be, he wants to capture the water quickly.
Any other commissioners, any comment, any more comments? No? Thank you.
Thank you. I guess that's one question.
Anything else after that?
Yes.
No,
Oh.
Do we, so,
We need to set a date.
There's deliberations,
oh, okay,
We need
And
to
then
set a
we'll-
date as to
so
when
at
it
the
should
end
be
of the meeting.
done. Set a date as to when
On
it
the
should be
agenda.
done.
Oh, yeah.
There's
yeah, but
a
that's
section
during
for
the
deliberations, and
deliberations.
we'll talk about
Don't we
this,
need to ask
Okay.
them?
Oh,
Well, we can
How
ask-
many be
yeah,
here?
all right.
How much time do you feel you need
as much as you want to.
get this done? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step
That's
on
all right.
you.
I was
didn't realize you
answering
were
his
talking
question.
to-
Order.
No, I was just
You got the
saying, Lois
gavel.
was
Yeah,
talking
I know.
about
Like,
3 years. Do I just say, sure, we'll do 3 years, 20, 21, 22, something like that?
I think we could also add that as a condition of the permit too, so.
I guess I need to tell the client that I need to be out there 3 years. And he.
So
will
it's
have
only
to-
another 20 bucks.
I know. He'll have to, he has a good landscaper that he's gonna use, and we'll just discuss that with the landscaper about treating some of that phragmites. So I'm gonna write that down.
Anything else?
Yes. The lean-to, is that being removed?
Yes, all that, the sheds,
All of that is going.
the sheds, the
How do you
lean-to,
want it?
and there's asphalt underneath the lean-to, that would be removed as well.
How do you propose to remove it?
Sheets, excavators.
I guess as long as you got excavators.
They're not gonna be big ones, they're gonna be.
Right?
maybe-
Just
wanted to make
asking
sure
the
that
question.
they-
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And
That's really not, I mean, it's wetland by flagging, but it's not much there. We're gonna turn it into something, like pulling out fill, taking down these structures, taking out the phragmites, fluffing up the soil, adding topsoil plants and seed.
Lois, was your question answered about a completion date?
Yeah, how long do you figure this is gonna take you to get this done? Thank you.
Well, I mean, it can be done, I'm just thinking out loud here, having it exposed and getting too late to seed. I don't care about shrubs and trees, we'll get those in, but stabilization. But I also don't want to wait till next spring. I mean, that would, if you do it next spring, we'll get it all done and it will grow for the entire growing season. And I would go out that fall and see how it's doing. This year, I don't know the landscaper schedule. We gotta get the material here, we need to do some site work. So all of a sudden it's Halloween, and I'm like, now what do? We got all exposed soil. We throw seed down and it doesn't germinate next year? So part of me is, I'm tossed.
Say 60, give you 60 days?
But that's gonna buck up against my seed thing. I don't care about
I
shrub.
mean,
We'll
you
get
can get it done in 3 weeks from now. I'm saying, do you want to have us grant you 60 days to complete it from today?
That would bring
assuming
me
that it's
into,
a
what,
voted on.
November?
Yeah, but you could, like I said, you could do it next week.
I don't know if I don't know.
Well,
if
I'm just
landscape-
saying, what's that?
I'm concerned that the landscaper will say, yeah, I can get out there right after Halloween. And that's fine, except for the seed.
Mhm.
We can plant shrubs.
Where are you planting the seed?
Everywhere. That's gonna be.
Where it says restoration area?
Yeah,
Oh,
both
okay.
restoration areas is gonna have a
it's got-
seed mix associated.
It's gotta have it
Okay,
there
that's
for
what I was
3
looking
years.
for.
So, we could say, all the.
You could always, like you said, 60 days, and if you need an extension until like May of next year, you just come
For the
back
seed.
in to
Right.
finish, right?
Well, re-dormant seed, right? Put the seed down and,
Yeah, I've done both, and sometimes it grows.
okay, might have to come back and throw some more on, you know, it's.
That's true, but
I'd like to-
it's not grass seed.
Yeah,
It's expensive.
we understand it's very expensive. I bought it, but, we do like to see complete a job, come in and get it, clean, go into the, warranty, it's called the warranty period or something,
Review.
and then you have that time
Yeah.
to, even still, if you decide not to put down your mix until the spring, you still have, I guess, well, how does that work with the warranty period, 3 years? If the seed, because they would want,
Monitoring
It's
period.
monitoring.
Yeah,
what, monitoring period, sorry. So
That's
I would
okay.
think that you would want to start your monitoring period as soon as possible, right?
Well,
If you wait till May and you get started there, now it's another
Well-
6 months you have to monitor this thing.
well, the way I envision the monitoring would start in 2020 anyways, would be, to me, it would be the fall of 2020, say about now, and maybe even a little earlier now. And I would see how everything's doing, see how the shrubs are doing, see how the trees are doing, make sure the dieback is not there, make sure we didn't get browsed back, and see how the area's doing, and write you folks a report, saying I've been out. And then that would go on to 2022. So So to me, if we waited till April and did the work and planted everything, I'd still do a September first site visit or first
Yes,
monitoring.
true, because it's a growing season.
Right.
You want the
We
growing
would
season,
have,
so.
we would start in the beginning of the growing
It's
season. would
3
have the
growing
whole-
seasons, it's not 3 calendar years.
No.
Now would be, you'd want
Oh,
to
it's
catch
not
the
3
growing
calendar
season.
years, it's just 3
Growing
falls.
season. Gotcha, all right. My
So it'd be
apologies.
21 and 22, it is 3 calendar years, but if we finished in April 30th, I'd be out September 15th reviewing it, because it would have the whole spring and the whole summer to establish itself. And then I'd be out again for 2 more years.
So what do we feel we want to do? Do we want to give him the May, or do we want to say the end of October, plus he can parlay the wetlands mix until the spring? Well, those are the 2 options we have, right?
Yeah.
But we would break ground in April, weather depending, if you want us to let it winter over one more year.
But if we said, you know, get it done by, say, May 1st, you could still do it now as much, you know, as you want.
Yeah.
You have a permit that can do the work.
Yeah, I mean, it is flat. I was just concerned about erosion, because we're gonna dig everything up,
Mhm.
re-topsoil it. Now you're gonna have exposed topsoils in
Yeah.
in restoration area 1 and 2. And now it's gonna say it's November 15th, and we're getting into ready for Thanksgiving, and we have a snowstorm pending. No, seeds aren't
How
growing.
about we spray it this fall?
Depends on when we're done. I mean,
Well,
I,
they can spray it in advance of doing
I think they can
anything.
choose their construction sequence. They just have to
Yeah.
pick when they're going to complete and have it reviewed for acceptance. If you want to do that for this year, to get, but like you said, the winter doesn't count for the time review period, so just tell us which one you want to do.
my perfect world, we start April 1st, or even March. We start next spring.
So that's what, so.
Late winter, like next spring, we start.
so
All right,
again, May
Once
31st?
you get started, how long do you think it's gonna take you to finish? Because we need a completion date, not a start date.
Yeah.
Okay, so
A week or 2 at the most, as long as the surveyor can
So
stay.
how
May
many days?
15th?
May
May
15th.
15th, you got
April
6 months to
30th.
coordinate that, maybe more. May 15th?
So we have to have everything implemented by May 15th.
Installed.
Installed and ready to
Seeded.
go. Seeded,
Done.
yeah. How do I do?
Inspectable.
You all like that?
Take pictures and send in a note saying we've now completed our installation.
You could talk to the
And
agent, let
Our
her
agent
know.
will come out
All right.
and check. Now, I noticed some Japanese stilt grass.
Yes.
I'm gonna get rid of that.
Hopefully. I hate that stuff.
Digging it up.
Digging it out.
Talk
Luckily,
about
it's
mother of millions.
it's in my yard now.
Oh, God, and once it's there, forget it.
I mean, it's pushed to the side because I maintain it, but you can't maintain everything.
I know.
So, I'm gonna write this down so I won't screw it up. So I know it'll be in the,
You're gonna get it
It'll be in
right.
a letter,
Get it
too.
right.
Yeah,
so I wanna,
So you have a
I say, so
completion
May
date.
15th of 2020.
Yep.
We need to be done.
Or any time before that.
Yeah. That's the drop dead date. We need
Is
to
that
be
the plan? Oh, because of the
Well,
rocks,
just
because of the rocks.
that, oh, go ahead, yeah.
That's a good question.
Wetland markers.
I would
Did
start.
we say
Wetland
markers?
We should put in markers, for
Have
sure.
them come in.
Was that discussed in the previous?
I don't
I
remember
don't
hearing
think
that.
so.
Did we say the stone wall was kind of serving the purpose?
Yeah, but we still have to put the markers there,
We need
because
to
otherwise
talk
it's
to
just a
you.
wall.
So
Wait a
we need
sec,
what?
wait a sec, one conversation at a time,
Yep, sorry.
because
Sorry.
it's not gonna pick it up the recording, so.
Sorry. Wetlands markers. Every
Did you see them? Some of them are out there.
No,
No.
you're talking about the
Our
flags.
plaques.
We're talking about the permanent, the town, with the town seal on it, it says, restricted area, I think they're $1.50 each or something. Little placards, you gotta put them, on a wooden post or a metal post, you know, probably where the wall is,
Okay.
on the edge. And I
Yeah.
think it's required 1 every 50?
One every 50 and every change of, and every change
Angle.
of
Change
angle.
detection. So you're gonna unfortunately need, you know,
They just like
$1.50.
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You need 5.
We need 5.
I believe, right? Am I
five
saying
And
that
they
right?
can,
That's
yeah.
what-
Please,
that's-
correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're fine.
Anytime, I'm okay with that.
Donna will
Big
yell
boy.
at you again.
What?
Donna will yell at you
And
again.
I
We're
guess
just
it
here to
should
give
follow the
guidance.
wall.
What's that? Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's have that in there,
$4.50.
and,
The height of these trees are, you guys agree with that? 4 to 6 foot?
yes, right?
46 is
All right, I think, anything else? We good, we ready to move
I'll
on?
put the detail on
if we're gonna require the markers, we should have the detail put on the plan, so there's
Right.
no, no
Right. Well,
question.
do you want to determine that now, and we can, at least in the record, we can,
That's what I'm saying.
okay.
5 markers at each
Yeah.
turn.
Just because we said the corners, that's why I was
Yeah.
thinking,
The
Right.
angle points.
Okay.
yeah.
So. should
Start,
there-
finish, and the angle points.
So there should be one,
At the
At
start and
the-
finish.
Yeah, every
yeah, but
angle
start
at
and
the start
finish is,
finish.
it is
Just
kind of
fine.
nebulous.
Of the wall.
Well, the
No,
wall.
start of the
Well,
wall.
If it's more than the wall, shouldn't it also
you
go?
know,
No, it's
So
close,
on
it's
the
gonna be
bigger-
within, each one is gonna be within 50 feet of the property line, it should be. it
And
should
it's
be
all wooded.
sufficient.
And,
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, that's where the shed is. I was thinking of it closer to the property line also, than to the end of the wall.
Oh, we could always add one on either side, make it 7.
Right?
Yeah, it's fine.
5 to 7.
All right, we're at
All right.
7 now.
And that way it continues.
So we hear
all the way
9.
across
Three
the
more
property
dollars.
and doesn't just stop.
Do you want the engineer to revise the plan to show those placards?
That would be nice, so that there's no question that they have to be
Yeah,
there.
we do like to have
Yes.
as much on the plan as possible, so that it makes it easier for everybody. Fortunately, I know it's kind of a pain, but
It is what it is, makes it easier for our office staff.
And this planting plan is, good with the commission also.
Mhm.
It's,
looks good.
okay.
I think everybody agrees.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
No, please state your name and your address.
Oh, Antonio Gloria from 3 Louis Circle, Monroe. The landscape, they need to get a permit and how they'll proceed.
No.
So what you're going to do is the commission is going to make a determination tonight
Yes,
when we get to that part of the meeting, and you'll receive a letter. The letter will give you a deadline as to when the work
May 15.
can start, right? But I guess, because they want to take down the shed and the garage and stuff now.
Do it.
That's fine.
Just fine, just have the
Okay.
pre-construction meeting.
Because I'm gonna get something to clean in the yard. I wanna use the dumpster to throw
Yeah.
boxes from the moving
As
stuff.
soon as you get approval from us and you have your pre-construction meeting, you can start all this work.
Right.
It doesn't have to start at any particular time, you just have to finish by May 15th.
Right.
Yes, I'm gonna do the
Okay.
shed
Yeah,
myself.
so that's,
And
totally
that top
fine.
probably not, but the shed, see
you could do the
stuff.
whole thing next week
Okay.
if you wanted to,
Just
that's
throw
up to you. Because by May 15th,
Well,
you have,
Well, no,
once
not
he
next
gets,
week.
once he
Well, I'm
gets
sorry.
all
Once
the
you get the last-
paperwork.
assuming everything is done.
Once
And you
the
also get the
requirements are
condition,
done.
you also get some conditions with the approval that you pretty much, I think, know what they're all gonna be at this point, and then you'll just have to,
Right.
that'll be, written down during your, and addressed during your pre-construction meeting so that you guys know
So the
everything.
letter I'm gonna have is basically to be the permit?
The
Yes,
letter, the letter that you have is not the permit.
No, when you're gonna send it, is it gonna be the permit with a deadline to finish?
Yeah, it'll be the
Right, but
approval.
it won't be, it will be approval, but are you looking at, are you talking about,
Remove the shed and clean up the yard?
all right, that's fine.
Yeah, you're gonna get an approval letter, and then you have to come in and fill out the actual permit, correct?
Actually, this is a remediation.
I'm not
so
sure if
it's
a
different
demolition is
course.
required for those sheds.
No, there's
yet.
definitely not a demolition for that, but I mean, as far
Okay,
as,
then yeah.
going forward and doing the work, he
Oh,
has to
no,
still,
ask the landscape.
has to still come
I
in
just
Yeah.
wanna remove the
and do the
sheds.
Go
paperwork,
for it.
Right, yeah.
pre-construction.
I'll wait for the letter,
Yeah.
as soon as I have the
Yeah.
letter, I start to remove the shed, clean up
No,
the
no,
yard.
there's
Okay.
one more step. You get the letter, but then you have to come back to the town hall and meet with Denise and go through some other paperwork. Right? Am I correct?
Yes, no, it's just a meeting,
Yeah,
kind of
just
going
want-
through everything,
Yes,
make
you
sure that
just the letter
everything's in
doesn't
the
give you,
plans, everybody knows.
letter
what's going
says you're approved to do the work, but there is one more step in the middle,
Okay.
okay? Which
So
is
I
just
need
a
to
meeting in
apply to
town
get a
hall.
demolition.
No. You just need to go in and talk with Denise, and she'll lay out the process.
Yes.
My question is, when does the violation remove from the property?
on after the monitoring is done.
After the 3 years of
Mhm.
monitoring? And if everybody's okay, it's removed? Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank
Question.
you.
Just go see Denise.
Yeah,
Good question.
See you again.
Okay,
Thank you very much, everyone.
application hearing determination. IWC 2019-10, 54 Jackie Hollow Road, Town of Monroe Emergency Services, addition and renovation to existing EMS building and associated site improvements.
No, I haven't even.
Okay, so these plans just came in, so Denise has not had a chance to review them yet. So it's up to you if you want to accept it and review it and then decide what you want to do, or just review now and decide what you want to do. It's up to the
Are they
commission.
putting, do you know if they're putting a new parking lot, or they're just paving the parking lot?
I believe that they're putting new, expanding.
Okay.
Yeah, the description, you've got the description.
But I haven't even,
Okay,
So
so I
this is
move
the
to have
existing.
a public hearing.
So this, okay.
Um,
So this is on the existing parcel that they're on, and it's just an extension? Is that what I'm,
So,
so we're not talking about a new piece of property?
no,
Okay, thank you.
this is,
No, it's work to the
a
existing
reconfigure- Looks like
building.
it's a reconfiguration of the parking. You have it on the overhead?
no,
Too new.
wait, maybe, I don't know, let me see here, I do not, I don't have that
no,
yet,
because I didn't,
right,
we just got this.
Expanding.
I'll
we literally
second-
just got it.
I'll second Jim's motion that we bring it to public hearing.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Everybody, that, how's the wording go? Everybody that's in agreement,
In
aye?
favor?
In favor, say
Favor.
aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Anybody abstaining? No.
Okay.
Motion passes, public hearing.
Okay. And then there's
All right, so far so good?
Yep.
Could happen. Boy, this is painful.
Okay.
We've
Now,
just begun.
Continuing on, we have deliberation session, no, any other, no others. Deliberation session on completed hearings. So that would be, I guess, back to IWR-21901, 3 Lower Circle.
No, that's for, regular,
Take it.
not enforcement.
There's nothing here, actually. Okay. So there's nothing in that section.
Correct,
Nothing to
So then we go to bond release and reduction reports.
yes.
IWC-2015-10, 448 Pepper Street, really good stuff, request for bond release.
You did get a report.
You got a report from, it was, basically, it was, everything was fine, and you go ahead and approve the release of it.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll
Do you
second.
have a second? Second, motion by Jeff Shamus, second by Lois Spence. Everybody in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Again,
against? Any
abstain.
anybody abstain? 0. Okay, motion passes. Okay.
I think it's under your paper.
Now we're out to 1I04-03, 3 Richards Drive, Blanchette, bond release request.
Yep. Okay.
I guess I can make a motion already.
No,
No, not yet.
Okay, they came in, the bond release was for the plantings. They've been in for 2 years, and they want to get the remaining money associated with the plantings. How can I highlight all of these? I can't.
Just click on one, it should open it up.
Okay.
There you go, and then just use the text. Look.
So, this is the area, we're supposed to have a series of inland wetland markers. I have a map further on, but there's supposed to be a series of inland wetland markers, partly of a stone wall, and this area had plantings.
Okay.
It's been 2 years. I can't tell you if what was supposed to be there is really there. I could see that there was some winterberry, I could see some of the stuff, but it's very lush.
Do we have, does any, I wasn't here.
And I do have a plan,
Do you
but,
have the original plan?
yeah, I do, I have it, but it gets even better. So I don't know if you're familiar with where 39 Richards is.
Yeah. 39
Yeah, it's
Richards
down.
Drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Okay,
Off
so
of,
I'm walking towards the back, and you can see all the plants.
Those are just
I-
volunteers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, I could see that there were some there. They left a
probably
site
died, yeah.
piece of excuse those. They left a little bit of a silt fence still in there. But this is what gets really interesting.
What is that?
That would be roof leader from the house. That would be a trampoline in an unpermitted pool, all in the floodplain.
Floodplain?
Yes.
You can't have a trampoline in the floodplain?
Well, the pool's in the floodplain too, and they're unpermitted.
They're unpermitted,
This,
that's the
this
thing.
is the trench drain from the roof leader. That was supposed to go to this nice broken underwater recharge system. So, I'm not sure what we want to do. They came for the bond release for the plantings, and this is what I found.
So isn't there monitoring requirements?
This, I think, was because it was so old.
No.
Yeah, they didn't do
This
it
one
then.
didn't have it.
This is from 2004.
Supposed to have 6 wetland markers, I could only find 3 posts,
I say I think there's new violations here.
which is why I wanted to
Well,
bring this
the
up.
floodplain is not under their
No.
purview, that's under P and Z.
Exactly, but I'm just trying to, the pool is not permitted, but still, that
It's probably
pool
within
would
the
still
upland
be in the
review
upland
area.
review area.
Well, I assume that pool
That's
disappears in the next couple of weeks.
That, I don't know,
Right?
because
I mean,
there
those
is
kind of
fill under
pools.
it.
You
But-
could drain
Those
it.
kind of pools they don't leave those up in the winter, I
But
imagine.
they did put a stone base under it. So that
That's
means
kinda
they did put some fill in the upland review area.
Hmm.
It's not
You
just on the
engineers are so
ground.
detailed.
It's all cheese room.
Look who's talking, right?
On my phone.
The trampoline is such a minor little.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there. I don't care, but I'm just trying to give
That's like
you,
a swing
so
set,
you
you
could
know.
get a.
Is that pool, do those pools require a permit, temporary pools?
It depends upon, is this considered a seasonal pool or is this a soft-sided pool?
Probably need help with the determination of that.
It looks
But-
soft-sided to me.
Well, yeah,
But if it
but
was temporary, it
there
would
are
be
some
on the ground.
soft-sided that are kept up. But then we also had talked about seasonal pool, we allow it, but this was put on
Phil.
fill. Where
And
we
it's
had
on
another one
gravel.
where we talked about the seasonal pool, but it was just put on the ground.
Yeah, and
It was
fill in
just
a
on
floodplain
grass.
is an issue too.
Yeah, and floodplain is not you guys, but I'm just trying to give you
Yep.
a whole overall. So, there's other issues. I'm not sure what we want to do about the bond release with the plants.
I'd like to hear what the chairman's got to say.
Me?
Now,
I thought my job is not to say as least as possible.
where's the,
Floodplain.
to
Um,
get back?
I think they gotta come in front of us and explain what's going on. Is that, or we could at least tell them what we see.
How much is the bond?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Bond was for 8,000? I think it was 8,000. Whatever, but
Was there, in the original approval, was there any kind of a requirement that an appropriate professional go out and
no,
determine?
it was just
so we
after
can't-
2 growing
Okay,
seasons.
so we really don't have
So
anything
that's
to say
why,
for that.
that's kind of why I brought this, because we don't have
Right.
that
Did they-
aspect of it,
did-
but
Did we look at it after completion?
this
Is there records
was,
that it was inspected like right after it was done?
well, they did do a propane tank on the side as an
Yeah.
IAA. So we were out there in 2017, and this is different from what it was in 2017.
So it's changed since 2017?
Beside the pool, but it just,
But we know that the plants actually went in.
yeah.
Okay.
Because there's old photos, obviously before I was ever here,
Yeah.
you could see that the plants had gone in, but I guess it's hard to tell.
What's the total number of plants that were required?
Let me get to the
Is
right
that the planting
drawing.
going on top? Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Nope, it was the other one, sorry. I can't drive this today, I guess.
On the top?
Come
No,
on,
that's not
just
it.
go to the
That's not it, that's the zone.
top. Yeah, no, this is where the plants are, believe it or not.
Wasn't that on top,
See.
wasn't it the table that was up there?
No, that's not
That's it,
not
that's
the,
the coverage.
Where was it, Tom?
yeah, no, it was very,
Is there anything on the callouts?
I mean, it was very, kind of vague.
To say the least.
Here, yeah.
Well, my
And then you
point,
had a little bit of the call-outs off to the side.
My point is that there has
Well,
to be
they show
something
the
that.
yard drain, right? Is that the
Yeah, but
house?
see, here's the yard drain, so here's the roof leader
Yeah.
coming over to,
Oh.
here's that system.
Mm.
This is the piece that's broken. It did come all the way back,
And there's supposed to be a level spreader, but there's,
and I couldn't tell you whether it was a level spreader in the back. I didn't see anything that gave me any
but
indication.
this whole thing is on the other side.
Well, no, this is where it should be. The broken cover was over here.
Over here.
But the roof leader, which was supposed to come down and connect to a, box in the back, comes and trenched all the way to the back by the wall. And then this is where you could see here, these were the markers. There's,
Yeah.
1, 2, and I counted 6, and there's only 3 there.
Okay, I would,
I don't know, it's appropriate to have a motion, but that we deny their request to have the bond release, released, and that
They have to show us the
you
plans.
meet with them and discuss the deficiencies.
Yeah, the
Bring 'em
person who
in
asked for the
if-
bond release was the original builder. Now there's new homeowners who
Oh.
I couldn't even converse with.
But the
But
homeowners
the
didn't
builder's
put the.
asking for it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
builder,
Alright.
so I would assume the builder has to show us the live plans?
Right, so I have to deal,
And-
it's two different issues. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to deal with
So
two different
this is a little
people is what I'm
convoluted.
getting at.
And then I think we also have to go to engineering and explain that the site plan was not installed according to this, the site was not constructed according to the site plan. And, there should be an issue with the CO because of that, correct?
But if the
I mean-
COs,
They have a
COs, if
CO.
they
They already have the
it,
CO,
yeah.
obviously, but
Yeah, I
there's a
mean,
deficient, someone didn't inspect this. How old is this house?
2015.
It's
Oh,
4
the
years
house is
ago. This should have
2015?
been
Well, it got
inspected.
sold, well, let's see.
Yeah,
site visit?
because the application, the number on it is 0403, which signifies it's 2004.
I'm sorry, yeah, 2017 is when, it was going to a new owner.
So who takes the lead on like, this is a dual violation, correct? There's a wetlands floodplain issue, and there's also, not following the proposed site
Well,
plan.
the floodplain would probably be under the jurisdiction of planning and zoning anyway, so,
Well, the denial, I think, I know there's issues there, but I'm just saying that the request is for the bond release, and that's related to the plantings.
Yes.
And that's
So
it.
you need to make your motion related to whether you want to release it or not in regards to.
Now, my question
Existing.
would be, is if they went in there and weeded all that stuff out, and you showed up and it was plants sitting there with dirt all around them and no other plants, would that have been acceptable?
yeah, because the plans were put in 2016, 17
Yeah.
timeframe. So, I mean, that's growth of 2 years.
That's what I mean, that's, unless we told them to be in there weeding it,
Well, and there was no
Then
invasive
it would
management,
be-
correct?
was there any invasive management required?
Oh,
Then
No,
I-
it's not, all they have to do is show us the, all they have to do is show us the living
It was
plants.
one of those,
Well, what
Yeah.
if they got killed by the invasive?
Then they have to replace them, or we use the
Replace
bond.
Yeah.
That's, the bond is there.
They're calling in for the bond, it's been 2 years. If the review period ended a year ago, they didn't come in come out and
Okay.
inspect,
I'm all over it.
that's on them, right? They want it
Okay.
inspected,
Move that we deny their
they
bond.
can't prove that they were alive a year ago, right?
Wait a
All right,
minute,
so we have a
why don't-
motion to
Wait, wait, wait,
deny.
wait, before we get there. Why don't we ask them to provide us a report from an appropriate professional saying that the plants that were required are actually there? The bond is for the plants, not for any other violations.
I
And it's not going to the homeowner anyway, it's the builder, and he doesn't really care what violations are there, so there's gonna be no, we're talking apples and oranges here. So we
Yeah.
need to concentrate on the plantings, finding out if they really are there or not, and if they have to weed it out to find it, so be it. And then once we determine that the plants are actually there, then we can release the bond or not.
Yeah, we have to see the plants a lot, correct?
That would be
Regardless of
my,
when the review
They have to
period-
prove to us.
that would be
Yeah.
my take on it.
So
That's
he
what-
made a motion to deny the bond release. Does anybody second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any absentees?
I oppose.
Oh, you pardon, sorry. One opposition?
Okay, wait, who
Oh,
made
wait a
the-
minute, wait, I'm gonna take that back. Yes, I vote aye.
All in favor?
Wait,
Aye.
I'm sorry, it was, motion was
Jim.
To
Jim.
deny.
Jim,
I second.
motion denied by
Jeff
Jim,
is a second.
seconded by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then any opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay.
Motion passes.
Okay,
Denied
It's
bond
okay.
release.
so now that's for
If
the
everybody
bond.
says aye, why do we have to ask the other? Huh?
I
Maybe
think
some-
it's just, that's what I've heard for the past year, so I was gonna follow.
Well, just in case you don't know.
So in the
who actually
denial
said it.
letter, do you want us to reference the fact that you're looking for confirmation due to the overgrowth of invasives?
Get a report from
Mm,
professionals.
overgrowth of, don't call it invasives, because we don't really.
No, that's what I'm saying, a
Okay.
report
Over-
from professionals,
Yeah.
we want proof that the plantings that were to be are there.
And there is a planting list somewhere.
Yeah,
It's not here.
it's,
It's not here,
it was
but we-
never on a drawing, it was in some of the paperwork I found.
But it's
It was
somewhere that we could
awful.
show that this is the plant, because,
Okay.
okay.
And then the broken water separator or something?
I think we refer that to engineering,
That's
correct?
violations.
So,
That-
yeah, so
that's
the
a
next thing
separate-
is, the pool is in the upland review area. That would be a violation.
That's a
There's no
separate,
permit, right, so that's a separate thing,
So
so,
do you want to issue a
So
violation
I
for
think
that?
you should come back with that as a proposed violation.
like, put the report together.
Okay.
So, but that's what I wanna,
yeah, talk to them about that,
so,
right?
Do you want to issue a violation, or do you want to reach out to them? Because now, this is probably the homeowner and not the builder.
right, now we're dealing with a different entity.
So.
Do you have any idea when that trench drain was put in, all the way to the road? But you said it was not there in 2017.
Based on photos that I saw, because all this was before me, based on photos I saw, I did not see a trench drain going all the way to the back.
Well,
And neither was that cover exposed and broken.
All right.
let's just try to deal with one of these issues at a time. Let's go back to the pool.
Mhm.
So do you want to, so you didn't get a contact from them, from the homeowner, so you haven't had any dialogue with the
The homeowner
homeowner?
was there, they don't speak English.
Okay.
And
Do we have an
so it was
interpreter
very
on the
difficult
staff?
for me to, I'm explaining to them what I was there for, and she's just like, okay, so, you know,
Okay.
you
So
know,
I
when we
think
do
what we have
something, we're gonna have to figure a way, because
Is
they
it-
didn't know.
Is it standard procedure that if we have to do a communication to a town resident, that it's written in English and expect to be accepted and interpreted on their behalf?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know, I mean, the
How does that work?
mother-in-law
You wanna-
and the mother were
You want
there.
to comment?
I don't believe either the Connecticut general statutes or the local regulations or ordinances will address that issue. So any party, any resident, any citizen, any person is charged with the knowledge of our laws, our ordinances.
And they're written in
Yeah.
They're all written in English. Obviously, we make every effort to afford everyone their due process under the law, and to the extent we can, determine what their language is, and if it's easily translatable into their language, we should make effort to do that, to accommodate them, or at a minimum, try to translate to them that they should retain legal representation, because it's not our job to educate them. It's our job to inform them as to what their responsibilities are. It's their job to respond.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe you should just state your name.
Oh, sure. So, Vince Marino, I'm the special town attorney related to land use matters.
Thank you.
Would it be appropriate for us to just ask them to get an interpreter? Because they're likely to have a family member or friend that can speak both languages.
Yeah, so there's always one caution that I give on interpretation, and that is you have to have, particularly as a regulatory authority, you need to have comfort that what is being interpreted correctly.
Mhm.
So you may want to have control over the interpreter. There are services, every time I go to bankruptcy court, when a servicer is required, the court has a telephone number that you dial, and there's a service that is provided. So if it's good enough for the United States Bankruptcy Court, I'm certain that we can find something to accommodate our needs. There are translation services that we can look into. But this is a problem that we don't come across often, but when we do, it does become problematic.
And I mean, they were very sweet people, but you know, she's like, I don't speak, and I was just like, I feel like, well, I just need to kind of walk your property, and she just went back in the house and.
I think we should send them a certified letter, whatever,
Which is
however the
custom,
process
yep.
is, okay, to explain the whole thing. Now, the builder's gonna be on notice, so he's gonna need to work with them, I'm sure anyways, to clear some of the other stuff, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if there's a problem with the way this engineered drawing was executed in the field, that's gonna need to be addressed, correct?
You would think
If
it
these
would have been on
pipes,
the builder.
if this pipe is discharging into an area that's a regulated area, and it's supposed to go into this drainage system, that's a violation. The builder's, I'm sure, the one who did it, and not the homeowner. So this third issue, so to speak, is going to come back to him, and he's gonna have to coordinate with the homeowner to make these repairs, and the pool is also there. So I think we're gonna catch it one of two ways.
So we're denying the bond release for the plantings, and then we're gonna,
Issue a violation for the pool,
now we're gonna issue the violation even though I haven't fully written anything up, we're just going based on,
yes.
okay.
Or a request,
What you've
maybe not a
presented.
maybe we don't do, is there an intermediate step to violation? Could it be a request for a discussion with the agent about an issue? Is there,
Typically, we put the report together, and then you will say, issue the NOV. The NOV goes out, which is regular mail and certified mail,
yeah,
and
'cause
they're
it's,
normally told to come
but it's kind
in
of a
front of
gray area,
us.
isn't it? Is it actually, like, who determine, if this was a permanent structure pool, we would know it's definitely a violation. If it's considered a seasonal pool,
I don't, then see, that's the thing,
We don't
do
know.
we
It's a gray
require
area.
permits on seasonal pools?
There's fill.
But this one
There's
had
gravel.
fill, which is why I
Gravel.
initially said it doesn't matter.
And you may consider referring it also to the building official, because it's not an enclosed pool. So it's open, I believe, and I'm trying to find the
There's
statute
certain
quickly.
heights for the ladders and.
Right, well, that pools on
Fence.
private property is supposed to be fenced in,
Right.
and enclosed, and I don't see, a distinction made between seasonal pools or,
Yeah.
permanent pools, or in-ground pools, or above pools, or temporary pools.
Yeah.
So we have a little
For
bit of-
swimming pools.
we got a little bit of work to do to
So
figure
there
out
may be
how to.
a number of
I don't-
agencies that should get involved.
Yeah.
I think let's give them the bond, I think we should start obviously with the bond denial.
Why
Okay,
don't-
that's gonna get the builder on notice.
I'll
And
put
I think
an
we have to
actual
refer
report
to,
together.
let's refer to engineering about this drainage situation.
The thing I would
Right,
say,
I'm sorry?
For purposes of your record, you might want to state your purpose of denial, and because this is a planting bond,
Yes.
so I'm assuming you're denying the release of the planting bond because of the uncertainty related to the plantings.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
As
Yes.
opposed to, as to
Has
any
nothing
potential
to do with the other
violations.
violations.
I just want to make sure the
Amend my
record's
bond
clear.
to that
This is
effect.
one issue, there's like 3 issues here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amend my
So,
motion.
he presented for a bond release, we addressed that. There was discovery of other, serious issues that also impact our commission, that were noticed at the time, you know, the way it works, so, but I think the issue falls, before we address it, I think it's an engineering issue, because that should have been inspected and approved by the town, engineering department, correct? As a condition of CO, and clearly that's not what happened here. So I
I
say we.
don't know if that's, goes through engineering or through the health department. I'm not sure what.
That's not, is that septic
That's
system?
not septic.
That's
That's
not septic,
drainage.
that's a drainage.
Yeah, I
Where's
know,
the
but
septic
they
system?
They do drainage and things like that also, so I'm not sure.
The hell?
Where is the septic?
Septic
Septic
in
is
the
in
front.
front.
Okay.
The front, so that's I'm pretty sure it's an engineering issue, but we could
Okay.
just ask around, you know,
Yeah.
we'll figure out, you're all in the same room,
Right,
with a couple
We are.
partitions.
okay.
All right, so are we all set, with this one?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, moving on. The second page, we have time extensions, none. IWC agent.
wait.
What?
We do have a time extension.
No typo.
There's nothing,
You know, that was the other thing that we didn't, any changes to the agenda,
Oh, right.
which was item 9, with time extensions. We got a request from 244 Web Circle, and violation submitting
It's right
the
here.
And I've got some stuff, I went out to the site.
It's IWV 2019-05, 244 Web Circle, filling in a conservation regulated area. They had a remediation submission due date by September 19th, 2019. So they are now requesting, they've hired on Spath Bjorklund, and they're requesting an extension, although it does not say.
He didn't put
I have a
how
que-
many dates.
I'm sorry,
No, you're fine. I'm
Okay.
just trying to get this back up.
this is the property.
This is
So-
the property, and
This is the.
I've been out there just the other day, which is, I'm the one who told him he was supposed to have plans submitted by the 19th. Spath Bjorken just staked the conservation easement.
Okay.
So this way, I was out there to be able to see exactly what's going on, because when we first presented this, we were told trucks were coming in, there was fill, and it was a mess. So the stakes were put in along the conservation easement in these locations through here. And originally, the purple, which is our areas of disturbance, was a lot bigger than it is. There's a little bit of disturbance here in the conservation easement area. Now, what's interesting about this is where the house was proposed. This is where the house was built. This is where the septic was proposed. This is where the septic is supposed to be. We're not fully sure that that's really where it is. So some of the fill that's in this area was here when they built the house.
And some of this is in the wrong
And
area?
so this little area is like the overflow of the fill, which it really wasn't, when we were told, he was doing filling here because everything was eroding away, because it was never compacted property when they built the house. So now that I've seen it a different time and we know where the conservation is, there's, it's shed a little bit more light, so that's why I told him to hold off until we could talk a little bit more to figure out.
So my first question when this happens, and I hear of this, is when they say they've hired an engineering firm, does that give us a security that they're in process? Well, how do we they could say it.
No,
I know they
he
flag
actually
it.
submitted the,
Do we get like a proposal?
he actually submitted the proposal because he had a lot of questions on the proposal. What they were telling him to do was a little bit overkill,
Okay.
so.
So
he
you know
kinda-
that he's engaged them fully as
Yes,
this.
and it
okay.
just, it took them
And they
quite a
staked
while
it.
to come
And
out
they
to
staked
stake
it,
it.
obviously.
So what extension are they looking for? How much?
I guess he didn't say, did he?
He didn't.
So,
So they.
An extension
so
to do
he
what?
just-
I think for the
This was
engineering work.
dated
for-
well,
today.
it's the next step, because when we first told him, it's Daisy, yeah. When we first told him, we thought it was a very egregious type
Yeah.
violation. Now, knowing a little bit more, it's not quite as egregious as we thought, so I'm not really sure what his next step is gonna be. Because,
But they retained Spath Bjorklund to do what?
well, Spath went
To
out to
submit the
do,
remediation
it's,
submission.
they were gonna do all the plans and all the, presenting
They're
at the
obviously gonna
hearings
have
and all
to
this stuff,
identify
but,
the septic system, correct?
pardon?
Yeah.
Part of that thing is they're gonna have to identify where the septic system is.
Well,
to make sure it's-
we know it's not quite in this direction, it actually flows more this way because he's had a hole over here and went to investigate it and found out it was part of the septic system, which is part of the fact that the original property was never backfilled properly.
But is some of the septic system in a regulated area, in the wrong spot?
Yeah, but
Well-
Okay,
that's,
so they're gonna
we
have to
can't,
identify exactly where it is to show what part of it may need to be moved, right?
Well, that's.
how can we move it?
that
Because
purple-
they,
Show where the,
this is
the
where it was
permit is.
proposed.
That's what was proposed, and it's actually
Yeah, up
further
over there,
away.
and some of that is a regulated area, correct?
Well, yeah, it was gonna be in the regulated
Yeah,
area
but
the
it's
first time.
closer to the wetlands where they were proposing it.
Before.
Right
Yeah,
here is
it's
where they're
actually
proposing it.
It's
further
actually
away.
further.
Well, somewhere, for this to get to be approved site plan, they had to have an approved septic area. They
They
didn't
did.
use it.
They did. This was approved,
That's a good point, right.
Yeah,
approved
they had to
septic.
have it
The health
approved, the health
department
department had to
didn't
approve a
approve
septic.
that,
So
right.
if they went and put it somewhere else, and that's in a regulated area, they're gonna have to make some kind of, a change here, whether it's partial or all of the system, correct? I mean, it's,
Well, the health
Well, no,
obviously,
because I mean, you guys have, you can put a septic system in a regulated area. with-
Yeah, yeah,
with-
no,
All right,
it's-
so regulate,
And it
maybe,
has
I'm
been-
sorry, maybe it's not in a violation, though.
No, the septic's not a
Location's not a-
violation, no,
oh,
no,
okay.
no, no,
I'm sorry,
no, no.
I
What I'm
misspoke.
trying to say is, the blue is where things were proposed.
But
This
it's
is what was approved, this is what was actually
It's all in
built.
a regulated area.
But we don't know
So-
that the health department approved that location of the septic.
But
Well,
they
that's out-
obviously
that's
signed
out of
off
our-
on
yeah.
it.
Right, no, understood.
But they obviously signed off on
Understood,
it, right?
but,
So-
but it's in our regulated area, it's a modification of what was proposed or permitted, and we could request, like we do during the permitting process, a health department memo saying that this is acceptable.
So I guess it boils down to is how much of an extension time you want to give them, correct?
And what exactly are we gonna request of him at this point? Because, you know, this, obviously, his conservation easement was kind of, I think, drafted up based on what was originally proposed.
I-
So right now, I mean, it's right behind his house. Half of
Yeah.
this stuff is,
I think what we're gonna
And-
request is that they show some kind of meeting to get into compliance. Or ask for, some kind of,
but if now we tell him to take this fill out,
I
that
think
fill
that's
is what's kind of,
in
Holding
violation.
his house up.
but it's holding his house up.
Well, I think we just get then I think we ask for the professional opinion of the engineer. Of what can be done, if anything can be done. You know, again, it probably
I
falls
mean, is
into
that the
a,
only, is that the
That's-
only violation he has?
Yeah, so this is the house. These are the photos. You can see, like, here's one of the stakes of the conservation easement.
yeah,
Oh, so they cleared it.
It was, this is the way, when he bought the house, this is the way it was.
an
When they
inherent
built it.
violation.
You know, and I don't know what this structure is. I can't even tell you what it is.
Probably was
But
a
that's,
fire
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks
that's what
like,
it looks like.
it may have been a fire pit, but,
Roasting horses on that thing.
yeah, but all of this is the, you know, this was the area he was originally filling in because it keeps compacting and washing away.
Well, there's a way to secure that, through an engineer could draw a drawing, a proposal to secure the erosion, okay?
You can see
So,
all here.
so let them come to us with a remedy to solve his problems. And if, I know there's something where we actually can't allow anything, and that's in a,
conservation
and
area.
that is a conservation.
That's
easement.
where we're
That,
talking,
and
yeah.
that's why because here's a stake, and you could see,
Maybe we should
there's-
refer to our council on this one again.
this is not an easy one.
I think Keith's right about, like, having the engineer come before us
Yeah,
to
I think
explain
He works, he does his
what,
thing, and
what they're gonna do to,
I mean, if he's gonna come up to us and show us with certainty that there is no way to secure this house without being in the conservation easement, that's gonna be a big deal, probably above our heads, right?
okay,
It
so
was
when
last
is the,
time.
is the October, when's the last meeting in
Well, I
October?
wanna see.
23rd, I think?
Vin, did you have anything you wanna say on this? You wanna,
I think I want
Go
to
ahead.
learn more about.
come back up to the microphone, please.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, 22.
Tim Moreno, Special Town Attorney for Land Use Matters. I think I'd like to learn more about the history of this before I opine on anything. When I saw that initial picture, it looked, where you were saying where the approved septic area was, and
Know where the house was, I mean, how
I
did they
mean,
build this and
here
get away
and
with
here,
it?
as opposed to,
That's
so
what I
the
don't
house was
understand.
supposed to be built there?
Let's
Pardon?
listen to
The house was supposed to be built there?
this is where the house was supposed to be. This
But
is where
that's
they
where it
built it.
actually is built.
And someone
Yeah.
signed off on the C of O
And-
after they
and-
built the house in the wrong
And
spot?
and all the department heads inspected it and reviewed it and approved it.
Do we know what year the CO happened?
Hmm.
There were some years where things were very.
Oh, I see where you're going with
You're-
this.
You're going
How do we
to,
approve
in
it?
response of municipal estoppel.
Yeah.
Where your municipal agents,
Well,
they
septic as-built.
relied on the municipal agents' representations that everything was fine and they issued a C of O.
Yeah.
So,
Was that when the house was?
you know, because if I'm looking at this as just a layperson, I'm saying, I don't understand what's going on here, because it looks like the house was supposed to be built over there, but it wasn't.
And someone in the town gave approval
And
if they
someone
got the
approved
CO.
it,
Yeah.
and
we need
where
to
the
do some research.
conservation easement was originally designated, presumably, was based upon where the house was supposed to be located.
Right.
And so now the whole kind of program is not anywhere near where the agencies approved it, either zoning or wetlands.
Can we do a swap in this
So-
particular situation?
What you may have to do in this situation is, unfortunately, I feel like it's becoming my new norm, is try to minimize the impacts to the wetlands based upon the conditions as presented, and, mitigate the harm to the environment, if there's such concern.
Well, I think-
But your agents, wetlands, zoning, and building, presumably all signed off on this.
They did,
Yeah,
everything was
so-
signed off, so that's why I'm
So
kind
I
of
guess
at
the
a-
only thing we could ask at this time is the engineer to present us, if there is a plan to make this right, if there's a possibility of doing something to correct the wrong, if there's not,
But what's the wrong?
Yeah, that,
the filling of the conservation area.
I would say the wrong is the building.
The building's
Oh, we
not,
can't
yes,
move
but,
the
but,
building.
but I think,
Well, I
I think
get
building a
that.
retaining wall versus moving a house
Right,
is
that's what
more
I'm.
reasonable.
No,
So-
I get that. I guess my only concern is, where is the that's why I don't have enough information. Where's the upland review area?
right here.
The red
You
dotted
see this
line.
red dot up
Okay, so you
here?
got that. So, again, I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, how did that get
Yeah.
missed?
Yeah.
Right? Your house was supposed to be outside of your regulated area, and now it's
Yeah.
mostly inside your regulated area, and everything that you're saying is a violation, so arguably everything's a violation. So, what are we saying is the violation?
I guess one way to look at it, Vin, is that the house, I would believe that once the house foundation was poured, it had to be as-built and approved. As far as moving some fill around on the conservation side, that's like ambiguous.
Yeah.
So we obviously can't say you have to move the house, right? That's totally out of the question. But could that have been done with a retaining wall and protected that conservation line versus just sloping it down with fill? Now, if that's a potential remedy, then
think
that's
that
what we
we
should
have
ask for, the engineer to draw, because that is doable.
So then you're saying have a retaining wall out here in the middle of the yard?
Yeah.
But I think to Vin's question about everything, what is the violation, and spelling it out, it's the location of the house, location of the septic,
I
and the
think that
fill
the,
in the conservation easement. It's all the activities in the upland review area that was never approved, basically.
Might I ask, one thought might be, maybe we should reserve decision and inquire first of our staff that approved this.
None of those
They're,
people
they're
are still
no, they're
here.
no longer here.
Okay.
See,
That's the problem.
1998 was a kind of tumultuous year from what I understand.
Yeah,
Well, actually, we had a lot of
apparently.
tumult
Sounds like,
between.
sounds like
Sure, it looks
you're being
good.
polite.
Pour the concrete.
Well, actually, we still had staff at that point, but there were, things were
Census
much
probably has
different.
a lot
and there was a
coming.
lot of paper, napkin sketches and that kind of stuff that happened.
So, then maybe what you should do is, you now have, so you have a conservation easement. Let's focus on that, right? Because clearly, when when the building was approved, that wasn't changed, that's conservation. So you have that to enforce, to the extent you want to enforce anything. You have a purchaser of a home that was approved by the town as is. And so I would be a little hesitant to come down too hard on the homeowner for something that had been approved properly or improperly, because the town owns its actions. And it has to. And I think I think your conservation easement approach is going to be your best approach to be best supported should legal action be required.
Now, in the past, we've been led to believe that we can't really approve anything in the conservation easement area. I'm not even sure where the board to even do that. The question would be, is if the board decided that fill was reasonable, could we then at that point say, the fill can remain, maybe we ask for some markers and a few plants and we're done? Is that a reasonable
ultimate
So
conclusion?
let me try to answer your question in the first instance, and I don't believe that wetlands, the wetlands agency in the first instance has the jurisdiction of the conservation area. I think it's in the town council because
It does, but they always refer it back to us.
I was gonna say, so.
Because
if we're-
it's our area.
Because we are a body of process, you know, I mean, technically, it should go to council, and council would refer it to here, because you're in the best positioned body to address this issue. But the owner of the easement, of the conservation easement, is the town, and its legislative body is the town council. So, you know, might you, without that pro forma referral, be exercising jurisdiction that you don't have? You know,
We have
so.
been, though, whenever there have been.
Right.
For questions of consistency,
Mhm.
we have been, basically, we just ask people to stay out of the conservation easement if they have destroyed it. The only thing we're really concerned about is the conservation easement, and the fact that he's continuing to fill to prevent the
Yeah,
erosion.
the fact
Right,
that,
but the
yeah, you're
conservation
right,
easement is
absolutely
in-
right, Lois. He's
That's-
continuing to
And he
remedy
has to,
something
I mean,
bad.
that's
in code.
understandable, but I.
But that's
agree
within your
he-
upland review area.
Yes, the
So-
whole thing is,
So
yeah.
there's,
So
there's
there's no
another angle,
jurisdiction.
right? Is, so you've got your jurisdiction because it's an activity in your review area,
Mhm.
and so that's the violation.
Mhm.
You know, so putting the conservation easement aside for the moment, putting as-is aside for the moment, it's a regulated activity in an upland review area that is not permitted.
And we could request a remediation we could request a repair, if you wanna call it that, and then also use the conservation easement as a constraint on that.
Right, well, it would be,
Because-
the violation would be the activity within the regulated area without a permit. So that's that's the violation. And so then he would have to come before you or deal with your agent to address the violation, which in the first instance should be ceasing all activity. And then, depending upon the process employed, whether it come before the body or be dealt with administratively, I leave to your process. But that's how you, I think, best address it.
I like that. I think the last time we saw this was that pool, right, that was permitted in the conservation, was that?
Oh, that's 72 Church Street you're talking about.
Right, wasn't that was this past spring or last
Yeah.
fall?
Yeah.
Right, and that was, the permit was issued by the town.
Mhm.
They built it in the
Annapolis.
conservation
Yep.
area. But what was our determination on that?
And they're still working on it. 15-foot buffer around the pool, they're
Yeah.
supposed to plant,
Yeah.
put a fence.
Yeah. And they
yeah.
can never replace the pool.
Right,
If
when
the
the
pool ever
pool is,
fails,
when the pool
it goes
fails, they're
back to
supposed to,
conservation
right.
area. This is a little bit different, because this guy's been filling, or some person has been filling this in to prevent erosion.
He had 2 truckloads that he put basically in this area, but when I went out, you see all this fill,
Yeah.
but now that I
He's
Understand.
trying to-
understand everything,
Yeah.
he didn't necessarily push it in the conservation. I mean, he added because things were
Yeah.
never compacted
So-
here.
So if his remedy is to keep his house from falling down, is to continue adding fill, that's the wrong remedy. He's gotta come up with a remedy that works based on his restriction of the conservation easement, and he's in the upland review area,
Right,
correct?
and so that he knows.
And there's remedies. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna cost, and I don't know what the grading
He's
is.
gotta make that proposal.
Yes.
So,
Correct.
so move that we give him an extension till October 23rd.
We got a motion for
Second.
extension second by Clark,
wait,
I'm sorry?
wait.
Motion by Jim
Oh,
Stewart,
well, that's right, we've already issued.
second by
the
Clark.
NOV.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion granted for an extension to October 23rd, 2019.
Actually, should be in the office a couple of days before that, so they can process it. So.
It's actually October 16th is when I expect it, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
We'll make that. All right, so we are moving on to agent approvals, none. Permitted uses as of right, IPU-2018-01, Department of Public Works, road repair, replacement, or general maintenance. IW regulations sections 4.2, do I read all that too?
No, you don't
Okay.
have to, that's one that stays there, it gets issued, and then the commission had made a motion that it's good for a certain amount of time, so that one
Okay.
expires and,
Oh, so we don't.
because the town has to
That's
do
the one.
work, and then they just report it as they do it
Okay.
to the commission.
Okay. Enforcement, deliberations on completed remediation
So-
submissions.
3 lowest.
3 lowest circle, that is, where is it? IWR 2019-01, open to discussion, is that right? Open discussion,
I make
So
a
do you-
motion to approve
with the conditions.
with conditions.
We have a motion from Commissioner Shamus to approve with conditions. Second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Jim Stewart. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Wait,
No?
We need to have
Any
the conditions.
abstentions? What?
wait, you didn't have any
Oh.
deliberations. You probably
sorry.
want to just go through and name the conditions during
conditions.
this
I'm
time.
sorry. Moving too fast,
There you go.
the brakes.
So
Okay,
you want
And I
to
can
go
reiterate what the
over,
conditions
that's right.
I'm sorry, I thought we had kind of,
We
we
kinda
discussed it,
did,
but,
but-
okay.
so just
so
So
we're
do we
all on the
all,
same
who has,
page.
who did,
I wrote
everybody
some
take-
notes.
Okay,
just some quick.
I did.
you wanna start?
The- So some of the site-specific conditions would be capping the curtain drain.
Yep,
I think you mentioned taking out a section.
If it's perforated, taking out a 10-foot section.
Okay.
if
Add that in.
perforated, take out only a 10-foot section?
I think you should take it out anyways, because the cap could pop off. I mean, if it was me doing it as one of my jobs, and I wanted to stop the flow, I'd want at least 10 feet,
And then
and
we
then fill it over.
disconnect it from the rest of it, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
it
so
Hold on.
are we taking it out fully, or only if it's perforated, we're taking it out?
Let's just take out, let's say take out 10 feet of covered pipe, pipe that's under the soil right now, regardless of whether.
So
The
we're-
the
From
cap,
the lower
where
end.
where the,
From the cap down?
No, from the lower end. So instead of capping it at the bottom
yeah,
and letting the pipe fill up with, it's
Oh, I
gonna fill
thought he was
up.
gonna cap it at the top.
Well, we don't know what is at the top, because I think it goes into I think it's
It's-
no one's seen it. Is it, everybody seen it? Is it
Old
gravel?
photos that I saw, he had pipes everywhere trying to drain the
Yeah.
wetlands.
But I thought that was in a
Going towards
gravel.
that.
I thought that was like a curtain drain type of deal. Either way, if he takes out, you could put it, I don't know, we don't know, right? Because no one saw the end of the pipe. So we don't know if it's
No, I
buried in
think
gravel
The-
or visible.
An old photo, the end of the pipe might have been over by the culvert.
So he can
goes-
cap,
that
he can
culvert that
cap
goes
the end
past.
if visible and rip out 10 feet of buried pipe at the westerly end of it. I believe it's westerly.
It might
And then
still be
cover
up
it with
on-
dirt.
I don't think I
That's
closed
always
it on the bottom, just out this side.
Right?
yeah.
So that's it right there. Cap the wet eastern side, take out 10 feet, that's underground on the westerly side, and just tack dirt over where the pipe came out.
So capping
That
the
should
eastern
decommission it.
side
And remove 10
and
feet on the
removing
westerly.
10 feet at the western side.
Yeah.
And
All right, number 2 is 3 years of monitoring. And the third would be that work has to be completed by May 15th, 2020.
And 7 wetlands markers.
And then the wetlands
Okay,
markers.
put that in there.
Right.
7 wetland markers.
And on the plan to change Barberry to
Oh,
Mayberry.
Yes.
And what about the spraying?
The what?
It's part of their isn't that part of their maintenance?
I said May 15th.
No, the spraying.
Oh, spraying of the vegetation.
Spraying.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
3 years, he's gotta show that that the stuff is not there, so I guess it's up to them, right? How they're gonna choose to manage it?
Yeah,
Just
but
can't
we
be there in
should,
3 years.
yeah, but he
need
didn't
to-
specify that they were gonna do that
Take it
section
all
by
out.
the pond. So we should add another condition that they're going to cut back and treat the Phragmites
To the edge of the pond?
to, along the margin of the pond.
That was where we had the wetlands markers, right? Do we want to say from wetlands?
No, the
No,
wetland
no.
markers
Okay.
are at the stone wall. You can't see it on there.
We got regulated area
I thought
markers and we got
wetlands-
wetland markers.
Yeah, the wetland markers are
I'm
there.
sorry, the wetlands, the wetlands
The flags,
flagging,
you're talking about
18,
flags.
Oh, yeah.
that's the
flags.
area we're talking about. So do
Yeah.
you want to say from
From-
wetlands flag 18?
Yeah, it pretty much
That's
goes to
what we can
19
s-
and then back to the pond.
So between 18, 19 to the back of the pond?
Yeah, Well, to the,
edge.
when I say back, I meant,
The edge of the pond.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Are we?
To the
okay.
southerly, to the southerly end of it, though, I mean, you want to take out a triangle, because I think that's what it was. You don't want to just go straight back, do you?
Well, I don't want to speculate that we're telling them to do something in an area that
Doesn't
there
have-
may not be any. They
Well,
just,
we can say if there is any, since we didn't actually walk that area, we really don't know. If we, the more we leave, the less success they'll have, but if there is frag there, they can remove it, and if it isn't there, obviously they don't have to remove it.
Okay, so from
So
the
does that
wetland
make sense?
markers,
The flags.
flag numbers.
Flag numbers 18 and 19.
18,
18, 19,
20,
and then I was
21.
thinking to,
20 and 21. You could,
Yeah,
yeah, you could say the
yeah.
Phragmites in that,
In that area. to
in
the
that
east.
area to the edge of
all
the pond.
frag in that
Yep.
area where necessary, or something,
Okay.
and something to that effect.
Okay.
All right, so is there any other conditions that anybody is concerned about, wants to mention, in the approval?
Well, Jim was saying something about the spraying, was that the Phragmites, Jim?
Yeah, that's what Jim was talking about.
Is there any other way to address that other than digging it up or spraying it with poison?
Spraying with poison,
Gasoline.
or you gotta
match
excavate,
or-
Napalm
or you
it?
have to excavate it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
not,
Yeah.
we're not talking about it.
And it's nasty stuff, I know, it's crazy.
Whoosh. Yeah.
And we got our date.
Big mushroom.
I mean, that's the other thing, the other way, I don't know how it would do, but what about like putting heavy plastic over it and robbing of sunlight and air?
Well, if this was in a saltwater environment, you would literally, well, you load it up with salt, and salt will
Yeah, oh, kill
That's
restrict
not
its
too good
growth
for the
and
wetlands,
kill it.
however.
But in a freshwater environment,
Yeah,
it's
you
just,
don't wanna do that.
Not good.
you have to literally dig the stuff all the
Yeah.
way down to the
Okay.
dry zones.
All right, so
Nasty
we're, so someone will make a motion to approve
No,
the
we
condition?
don't, we
Oh,
approved the
sorry.
draft.
Right.
Denise draws up a draft, and then we
Oh, I'm
approve
sorry,
the draft.
so we're done, are we done with this one now?
So we're directing our staff to
Okay.
direct
We're
a
directing our
positive.
staff to draw a letter of approval with conditions, correct?
Yeah,
Right.
Yep.
sounds good to me.
Which is
All right,
the next
okay,
slide.
so now we're back to, administrative review enforcement issues. Are we good? Are we all set to move on?
This is next.
IWV 2019-10, 5 Bridge Street, Kimball, unpermitted work in a regulated area.
Can I, just to go back to the enforcement to 3 Lois for a second?
Sorry.
Normally, you're right, you do request a draft. However, for remediations,
How much money?
sometimes you vote and just do it so that they can start
That's right.
expediting.
Yeah, I think we had a vote.
So, no,
With a
you,
condition.
no, Jeff
yeah,
made
you
a
just-
motion, but then you just kind of skipped over
I'm
that.
sorry.
Send a draft approval because you named your conditions. Do you want to vote? And that
Okay.
way we'll just complete the letter. We can
Mhm.
email you.
So we just need to have a second to the
Thank you,
motion.
so,
Second.
so,
You
let
actually
me go
have a
back, let me just
second?
back it up, beep,
Oh.
beep, beep, okay?
Jim
We're gonna, just so it's
seconded that.
official, we have a motion
By Jeff.
by Jeff to approve with conditions. Do we have a second?
Second.
Jim Stewart seconds. Do we have all, everybody in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Any abstentions?
I thought
None.
you already did that. but that's-
Okay, I
No,
don't
we
know,
did.
well, we did it twice.
Okay,
We're
belt and
covered.
suspenders, belt and
So just
suspenders.
Exactly.
Because
Moving-
otherwise, Mr. Gloria will have to come back to the next meeting and.
Yes.
no, we-
I didn't think that
Thank
was
you.
your intent, but I.
Coming up.
Just
We're
keep it
getting
on the
there.
tracks, keep it on the
Okay.
tracks. All right, so back to administrative reviews and enforcement issues. IWV 2019-10, 5 Bridge Street, Kimball, unpermitted work in a regulated area.
Okay. Last time we went to talk about this, and then, the commission had questions about what we had approved or hadn't approved. So there were 2 applications that were filed with the Inland Wetlands Commission. One was a 2-lot subdivision, one was a single residential lot. The 2-lot subdivision was withdrawn. This, and when we had the one for the 2-lot residential dwellings, the referral, you guys, this commission gave referral to P and Z. okay?
Mhm.
Going back to the minutes, based on that, even, because it was withdrawn, but you had made motion. The minutes stated that docks were replaced and repaired without contact with the Wetlands office prior. The applicant stated that he was aware that there was a form that was required for the work on the docks. The applicant also stated that he was registering with First Light. I have been unsuccessful reaching First Light, and we still have nothing.
As was he.
Right, so I'm just
He
saying,
has-
so, you know, we don't have anything from First Light on that either. Then we had minutes on March 27th about the clearing, and that there are no violations that were to be addressed during the development of Lot 2. That was where we were talking about the boathouse and the docks being in violation. So, that being said, that was all in association with the 2-lot subdivision that was withdrawn. So then we have the single family application that we got. March 13th, we stated the property is being shown as a single lot until a subdivision referral would be approved. And then at the 27th meeting, there was questions by this commission about the houseboat. The applicant advised that during boating season, the houseboat would stay in the water and would be brought upon the land during winter. Houseboats on pontoons. A houseboat has a bedroom, a kitchen, a bathroom, and electrical service connection to it. It may or may not have a boating license, because that was a question that was asked last week. I did find out that state of Connecticut residents must have a copy of a boating license on board of the recreational vehicle on which they operate. So don't know about that. The area where the houseboat is was excavated, the soils were removed and deposited in the upland review area. So that being said, trying to loop back around, what do we want to do with? So this was the overall map that was put together. Wetlands area, so this whole area is where the docks are, the pontoon, and all that activity that's been going on. And I'm sure everybody has seen all the photos in the past.
We saw them last time.
No, we didn't.
No,
because
we
our
didn't
projector
see it
wasn't
last
working
time.
last week.
Was it
It
before
was-
that,
it
or
was
do we
in
have
the-
photos in the
In the
package?
package.
It was
Sorry,
probably in the
package.
pack, but we didn't go through this.
These are nice
so-
color ones, but can you believe that thing's got a bathroom, a kitchen, a bedroom?
An electrical service.
And it has the illegal electrical service.
Was there any evidence that it was actually in the water this summer?
Couldn't tell.
But it's been dug out.
So-
It's been dug into the
I'm
hillside.
trying to get to
Where-
that photo, so, where is it?
That thing's so tiny.
I mean, it's very cute.
It's awesome.
So here you can see the electrical service, I mean, here's the electrical
If he goes
service.
to, if he just floats it to the other side, to
So
Oxford,
the
no
electrical
problem.
The electrical service is permanent.
No, those are
No,
plugs.
That's a plug.
That's an extension cord plugged into the
Yeah,
boat.
it's not the.
Yeah, but it's gotta come from someplace. The boat
No,
doesn't
that's
generate its own
basic-
electricity.
It's coming off the house.
Yeah, so he's plugging from his
The-
house.
the
dri-
house that's
That's
not
just,
built?
that's just a funky
They're plugging
extension
into the
cord.
boat.
That's just the same
Yeah.
thing as an
One
extension
side
cord.
or the other.
He's insulated the plugs, so it's not supposed to be there permanently.
No, but there's, the
He's
the
using,
wire was
he's using
brought
a
down
catch
and then-
22 saying it goes out on the
He's a-
water, but
he's
it's
a
not
clever
been out
guy.
on the water.
He's a clever guy.
Yeah.
So, how do we
So
want to
here's, the s-
proceed?
you know, so the spoils were all over here from when he dug out the area,
Right.
all this area.
That doesn't look like it goes in the water.
How do we want to proceed with this one?
Just,
I wanna see the rest of the pictures. We
Oh, I'm
gotta,
sorry.
we gotta be fully informed before we jump
so
into
here you can kind of see a
anything.
little bit more of the pontoon aspect of it.
We're,
I'm sorry, I couldn't always rotate all the photos.
So is there a reason why this is not a notice of violation?
It hadn't been prior. My understanding is because when it was being presented with the 2-lot and the 1-lot, there was questions and he was supposed to come back, but then the 2-lot subdivision's been withdrawn.
do we like to make a motion?
Is he still gonna pursue the one lot?
Yeah,
Building
yeah,
lot
he
one?
has a, well, he has a.
But this isn't
approval
on
from
that
his
lot, right?
commission regarding that.
Which lot is this on? Oh, it's
Well,
on the
right now, it's the
overall one.
whole lot because it's a 1-lot now,
So-
even though
So we approved the single lot subdivision,
It wasn't a subdivision.
single lot
Single lot.
Development.
single lot development, and it had this already on there.
this is shown on it because.
It's a non-issue, it's already permitted. In my mind, we reviewed it, it was shown, we said whatever we said during that meeting, and we issued a permit. I mean,
Permit for what, I'm sorry.
we issued a permit for the site development of that lot, and this is part of the lot.
But that was a subdivision. wasn't it?
No,
No,
it
there
was a
was a-
single lot
that's
that
what
they
it-
came back
Doesn't he have to
with.
go to like the building department and get,
That's not us.
That, yeah. If it was shown on the plan and we didn't,
Catch it.
So
and
let me
we
ask,
permitted it and said, we looked at it all, and
Did P and Z permit though?
Well, that's
There's
us.
another
I was
one.
gonna say, I think, the,
state the name again, please.
Ms. Moreno, special,
I hate
land
saying
counsel.
that, but it's
Hey, there,
like,
no worries, you're absolutely correct to call me out on that. The body is correct to be concerned, but also correct to note its limitations on jurisdiction and its past action. This very well may be a violation of a number of matters, but the issue for you is whether or not it's a violation of anything under your jurisdiction. If it's a violation of the building code, a violation of zoning, those departments need to exercise their authorities. You don't exercise their authorities, you can make the referral to them, and if they don't do anything, so be it. Your jurisdiction is capped, and if it was part of a prior site plan that you came before the body, I would proceed with caution. Because the argument is gonna be that you had the opportunity to address this and you chose not to. But I don't know the history of it, so I rely on you.
right, thank you. Is it possible that it's a methodologies problem? Like he was, if he had permission to do what he did, but did he do it right? Like, for instance, there's that Phil's deposit on the bank. If he was, I don't know what the approval was, but if he was allowed to excavate out, was just dumping it on the bank the way to do it? Or was it to bring it up out of the review area or someplace where it can't wash? That's what my question is. Was it a methodologies problem?
He didn't have permission. This is
To
a
do that.
forgiveness thing.
Right, and I mean,
So,
the applicant was questioned on the permitted use of right involving the docks. He was advised it was incorrect, and he stated he planned to return with a non-regular use application. All this was kind of stated in minutes on the approval of the single lot, but we don't have, he never came back with anything.
We did ask him
So
for
I
that.
don't,
I don't know.
if it was permitted, did the excavation or any additional work occur to that area that,
After the fact.
after the fact, that could be a violation, even if we did permit the footprint of whatever, I don't even remember.
it's a house.
If it showed but if it showed this
it
floating
showed it as
thing,
being existing.
It did show it
As a
existing on the
boathouse.
plans.
Okay, no, is there a proposed change to anything there that was executed? Like, was there a proposal showing we're gonna excavate this area out?
No, but
Were
that
there-
was all on the plans shown as existing, but that was never something that got permitted, it was just done
But it was done after the fact?
before.
Before he came in with any applications.
So it was done, it was on a plan, and we approved it or ignored it, so it's done.
Maybe,
I think the caution is if there's additional work that's
Yeah,
going on,
if we
that's
believe
a
that he
different
did
story.
something additional, then
can we make maybe just a request that he just secure it? If he's gonna leave it, if it's gonna stay as it is, like take any loose fill off the bank so that it doesn't wash into the water? I mean,
Stabilizing.
Should be stabilized.
just to make sure it's
definitely.
stabilized, so
Yeah.
at this point, I mean, that's my thought.
Is it just
Anybody
in
wanna
a
make
pile, the fill that he took out?
Yeah.
I remember seeing the
I
picture.
mean, every time you drag that thing anyway, you're gonna be digging up the ground.
I
That's
don't think he
heavy.
really plans on taking it in and out.
Well,
Yeah,
I have a question though,
That right there.
you
So,
could get a hold of
that would be my-
the,
First Light,
First Light,
they don't get back to me. I
because
haven't-
First Light has the regulations for
Exactly.
docks
Probably
and
back when
houseboats.
They're the jurisdictional over
So that's what
this.
I remember him saying something about that was, that was permitted by use by First Light
that's correct.
because for you to put your boat on the water or put your
Yeah.
docks on the water, you have to have
I mean, just
permission.
my biggest concern is the
We
bottom
were-
of the-
we couldn't
of
step
the
over-
slope, and there's,
One,
I'm sorry.
one conversation at a
Right.
time.
Because I think that was why we didn't do anything on it, because we couldn't step into what's the regulations on that body of water, because it's not really technically town of Monroe anymore, because it's under the jurisdiction of First Light.
The
'Cause they
land is
built the
ours.
lake.
I think that the lake is theirs, but the land is ours.
Yeah, but I think that's why we got stuck, because we couldn't say anything, because he was putting the docks out into the water during the summertime, and then they're dragged back on.
Everyone does
And the
that.
houseboat does the same thing. He was saying that. I remember him saying that.
Yeah.
Well, there's not much I don't see
We're
that.
kind of, yeah, it is 20, we're caught. We can't do anything to do anything unless he starts to dig up
But this way we
the
can-
ground.
Yeah.
into
Start
the
to
water.
affect it
That's the
again,
whole
and
point.
then we get.
Except we
Sorry?
need to secure that pile of dirt. I agree with Keith.
Yeah.
We need to.
I would send him a
stabilize
notice
that.
saying that pile of dirt near
Should
the
seeded
houseboat
perhaps,
should be, secured.
Stabilized.
Spread out,
Or
spread out,
stabilized,
perhaps
or-
mulched and seeded. I
Yeah.
don't, I
You
can't
could
really
spread-
tell.
you could
I
spread
can't
it in
tell
and
how
out.
old it is.
Level it.
Gravel.
I don't know.
You think
It's
so?
gravel,
That's
gravel,
probably
yeah.
his bank gravel.
Which
Yeah.
is gonna
It's
have
not gonna-
limited erosion,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
there'll be some fines. Oh, yeah.
Digging it up there.
You know, a little.
You're not gonna seed it.
We also don't want them to bring down equipment and then do more
Exactly.
disturbance trying to
Right,
do it. The
right.
collateral damage is not worth it. So
Rake out the,
if he could just smooth it over a little bit, I can't really gauge how much material's actually there, you know.
Did you see it? Was it gravel or is it dirt?
it is a mixture.
Mixed.
How about,
yeah.
how about we just ask him to come in and explain to us how he's gonna just make sure that stuff isn't gonna wash back in?
Okay.
And then we could just agent approve it or something afterwards. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
we wouldn't have to,
No,
no, because
No, we can't.
We've already approved it.
Yeah.
no, I'm trying to say,
I would
whatever his
say that we
plan is,
review-
I'm sorry, whatever his plan, whatever
Yeah.
his plan, we ask him to present to us or the agent, Denise, how he's gonna secure it, so that we can not worry about it washing it back into the water. And then if it's acceptable, just let him do that and let us know it's done.
I would
think he
say
would
a
agree.
conversation between Denise and,
And him. I don't
Yeah.
think he has to come
Okay.
in front here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he doesn't come in,
Right.
Yeah.
okay. Anybody wanna make a motion on that?
I don't think we
I
have
don't
to.
think
No,
we need
okay.
one.
Yeah,
Okay.
So that was, so we're done with that one?
yeah.
All right, let's move on to IWV-2014-04, wow. 64 Cambridge Drive, New England Materials.
Mr. Chairman, Vince Moreno, Special Town Council for Land Use Matters. On this matter, I just want to give the body an update with respect to what's going on with this property, because the town has been involved with discussions with the new property owner over the last, we're in September, so since about the end of June. And as we all know, this property very well, and I think we generally refer to it as the quarry, and it's not a quarry, but it's a parcel that was approved, I believe, about 12 years ago for site plan development for the development of two large buildings. The prior owner over excavated the foundation hole.
That's one way to put it.
And
He's building a bunker?
the current owner, who I believe became the owner of the property in mid-June, approached the town and is continuing to work through the zoning subcommittee process to put forward some regulations that would allow certain activities in this part of town. If that process were to be successful and these regulations were to come into being, it's an uncertain, but we'll know within the next approximately 90 days, then the owner would come forward with a application to both this body and the zoning commission in the ordinary regulatory process. And after discussion with not only the town planner but the first selectman, in order to avoid unnecessary contest and under the circumstances of the amount of time that has passed without any enforcement proceeding, what the administration is asking is that we allow this process to play out over the course of the next probably 4 to 6 months, 3 to 4 months to see if the text comes into being, and then we have the application process. This body might require a number of meetings to address that application as well as zoning. So we're saying it's a 6-month process because of the entirety of the application process. But not to go any further at this time with respect to any enforcement, things like that, only because we are working in the spirit of moving forward with this property because of the condition where we find it and because of the history related to it. We appreciate.
Are they gonna be doing anything more with the property during?
There has been an agreement that there'll be no further blasting on site. The current permit, because of, I think it's Public Act 11-4, was arguably extended to March of 2020. That's the excavation and fill permit. So at a meeting earlier today, the zoning chairman thought that for purposes of fill, that the existing permit would allow fill because it's a excavation fill permit, and to start the process of bringing the foundation hole back up to an acceptable excavation depthness.
And there's no soil and erosion control plan to handle that next phase. There are so many issues with this.
We appreciate that, and what we have gotten is we're implementing a process to ensure that all material brought on site is certified and manifested so that we know it's clean fill. So we're doing our best under the circumstances to try to protect against contamination and activity that has been going on of similar quality without oversight. So we're trying to minimize the activity and bring it back before the appropriate bodies, including this body, through a regulatory process rather than through a litigation process. So I was asked to present that to you this evening and ask for your indulgence and your patience for, under the circumstances, a short window of time, although 6 months doesn't sound short under the circumstances. Since this has been going on for over a decade, we don't think it's an unreasonable window because of the regulatory process of putting text amendments in place as well as submitting applications. So we would hope that this would be back before your body, assuming that text was in place toward the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And then if that whole process falls apart, then we'll find ourselves where we find ourselves, and we'll have to take whatever action is appropriate at that time. But we're talking about a narrow window under the circumstances.
But at the same time, from I'm not an attorney, but from a legal standpoint, we're being asked that the ongoing or the violations that have occurred, as well as now the body with the knowledge that additional work is going to occur to fill the hole without being privy to any environmental protection measures, to just say, yeah, go ahead and fill the hole up to whatever elevation, and then we'll see you when you have an application to develop the site. And with some kind of confidence that how they're filling is environmentally sound, regardless of the cleanness of the material, but the compaction and what the environmental damage was already. So having where it is today, understanding that elevation, and having studies done, having an understanding of what occurred at that elevation before they start bringing in the material to start filling again, could also have long-term impacts on the surrounding environment. So, if we say, it's just my thoughts, if we say, yeah, okay, see you when you have a development, to them, when you have a development permit, and, yeah, just keep filling, do whatever you gotta do, whatever the thousands of cubic yards of material you're gonna bring in, and then we're knowledgeable of that, and then so when it comes time to talking about the application with the violations that have occurred, and the remedy before you even get to the development, but the remedy for what may have to happen to counteract. And where I'm going is, there's studies that need to be done because of the impact, from my understanding and from professional testimony that has been given by others on another application, alleging that the Tier 1 vernal pools have been drastically, significantly impacted because of that activity. That's beyond maybe their project area, but that is an impact that would need to be understood. And it's almost like, we're having to have knowledge and say yes, but then later on go back and say, well, you did all these things that were in violation. And could they say, well, you allowed us to fill this back in again up to a certain elevation? And then we're like, okay, now what do we do?
So two things. Number one is, it's my understanding, that the amount of fill that would be required to bring this parcel up to grade is, I believe, about 1.5 million cubic yards of fill. That it would take about 10 to 12 years of constant truck dumping to, so this is not a process where over the course of the next 2 months or 3 months, you're gonna have and I don't want to say this, I don't mean to be offensive by using the word meaningful, because any deposit could have a meaningful effect on the environment, but meaning that it's not going to be a meaningful significance in the amount of fill that is going to be required between now and year end, because of the amount that's required to bring it up to a usable grade.
Do we even know what that distance, the depth that they have to bring it up? Is it 5 feet, 10 feet?
I was told anecdotally, it's about 100 feet deeper than it should be.
And that's over like 70 acres.
Can I make a quick suggestion?
So it's a big hole in the ground.
We know, so it's pretty clear that there's something not right here, okay? And I think these new property owners are working to remedy it in one way or another, correct?
That's, I'm going to operate in good faith and say yes.
Okay. Now, because we have a board that's concerned about our town and our environment, and there's some professionals on this board, is it fair to ask that we get a report from either you or some other agent every meeting, just to keep us up to date to what's going on?
I think that's fair.
Is that okay with everybody for now?
And again, I want you to, you are an independent body, you have the ability, I don't want to sit here and you're being asked by the administration to refrain from action. You have the legal authority to act. The legal expense that I anticipate associated with such enforcement on this matter would be something that would need to be budgeted for in an annual sense, because it is not insignificant. And the First Selectman is very sensitive to that expense if there's an opportunity to address it in a non-judicial way. And I'm not saying there is, I'm not saying there isn't. What I'm saying is we find ourselves, I find myself at a moment in time that we have to address what it is. How it got there, maybe is part of a conversation, but to the extent that they dug through a wetland and it's been decimated and destroyed and is no longer in existence, I don't know how you ultimately restore that.
There's mitigation measures.
I know there's mitigation measures, but I mean, you'll never get what it was to a degree of perfection. You'll get something that is comparable or for like exchange. And so what we might want to do is, as this process advances and as conversations advance, again, with your information and your input, have protocols put in place for whether it be soil and erosion, whether it be for preventing further environmental harm. The current owner at least presents as though he's trying and wants to do what's right, not only by the environment, but by the town. And he did voluntarily.
Who's the current owner?
I don't know the name of the actual owner, the entity. I've been dealing with a gentleman, his name is Arnold Karp, K-A-R-P.
New England Materials?
Thank you. And he's out of southern Fairfield County.
Now,
I live in New Canaan.
why, and I might have, I obviously missed this, but what was the reason why they need to do filling in the next 6 months?
They are, what is the reason? That's a good, well, there's probably a business reason that, one, they would take the position, well, we have an existing permit that was extended by operation of Public Act till March of 2020. And so we're
Could you explain that a little bit more, please? Because I'm not familiar with the Public Act.
Right.
I've been sitting on this board for 14 years. I don't remember ever seeing any kind of an application, any significant excavation, nevertheless, a quarry with hundreds of feet deep that has drained God knows how many acres of wetlands it has drained. The West Branch of the Paquonic River, the headwaters is on one side. There were 3 vernal pools on the other side. We never gave any approval. How long can we look the other way?
You should not, not suggesting.
And we're being asked to look away. Still, more.
Well,
how long is it going to continue?
We're in the moment of action, but again, this is a moment of action at its infancy stage, and we're trying to inch the matter forward to avoid judicial contest unless the town decides that that is the resort that it is left to take. And so the First Selectman wants to explore all other non-judicial remedies before we go in that direction because of the expense that would be associated therewith. I don't disagree with you, and I agree. I believe there was a wetland permit. I don't have my
The only wetland permit that I remember, and I would need to refer back to previous ones, had to do with the entrance of 64 Cambridge. I don't remember anything that went beyond the guardhouse.
In 2004, what I've
2004.
2004
Okay, so that was before
when-
any of us here. And
was
we
when
didn't have
there
a
was
wetlands
research.
agent, and we didn't have any of that stuff.
That
so all
lot
stuff
was gonna be
before.
used to pull some material out to construct the road for Pepper Street.
Oh, but this would be quite a road.
That's all, that's.
Road to heaven.
This was, if I'm being fair,
That's
a
what
very
it was
creative
originally.
way of extraction from the property for some other purpose.
Do you have the aerial, if the rest of the commission had seen it or not?
And I agree, but the prior administration did not pursue enforcement. And so we have that history that we're dealing with. And we are, from the moment that this owner purchased the property, he approached the town because he recognized that there was an issue.
And it seems that the town is all over this now, so it's not like the wool's being pulled. If in fact wool was being pulled over anybody's eyes, it's not happening anymore. It's pretty much exposed, correct?
It is absolutely exposed.
So there's
Is he
not,
gonna do
it's
any
not.
more work? Excuse me, I didn't mean to.
No, it's okay, I'll just finish up. It appears that any type of regulation or oversight that the town could possibly be doing at this time is happening, correct?
That is correct. Based upon current circumstances and based upon, one could argue that we could be taking different positions, and I could argue the same. However, I can defend every position that we're taking. We're not taking an indefensible position based upon where we're all finding ourselves. And I agree with the passion behind your statements, because I am as bothered by the current conditions as you. However, we need to, we need to proceed in an informed and intelligent manner to avoid what is currently happening from becoming more problematic. Because what I've learned, which I was actually surprised because I hadn't dealt with it, you know, if you can get a blasting permit without a zoning or wetland permit, and you don't need to have a zoning permit to get a blasting permit, you just have to have a license. And the fire marshal cannot prevent you from, you know, cannot be prevented from issuing that blasting permit. Well, the blasting, which was what we thought was one of our major concerns because it was causing more degradation to the property, was what we immediately focused on to try to stop. We got agreement there that they were going to stop the blasting, and the last blasting was as of June 30. There's been no blasting since that date. It's my understanding that there have been trucks and some activity on site that is consistent with past activity. We had a discussion about that today, and the discussion was twofold. One was concern about material and about contamination, and the other was activity that exceeded the scope of the permit. And the zoning chairman pointed out that there was a permit, the excavation fill permit, or site plan development, that the commission had approved. And what had happened was, around the time with 2008, when the economy was in trouble, the legislature passed a law that said to assist developers who were finding themselves in a difficult economy, that anyone who had gotten approvals, I believe it was from my computer died, otherwise I'd pull it up for you. Anyone who had existing approvals that had not yet expired,
Right, I'm familiar with that.
were
from a
then
wetlands
therefore just
standpoint.
naturally extended as a matter of law because of, you know, the economy was not supportive of construction at that time. And so if you apply that law to these permits and you take the position that the permits were extended, and there's an argument that they were, and there's an argument that they weren't, then they would expire under any circumstances in March of 2020. So what we are facing with is twofold. One is we're in September of 2019. We have, if we give them the benefit of the doubt, permits that are going to expire by their own terms inside of 6 months for activity that's been going on unchecked, thank you, for over a decade. And before we jump into controversy, we have to take all those factors into consideration because ultimately we have a responsibility to the constituents of the town not to drive up our budgets if we can avoid them. So that's the process that we're exploring currently. And if it fails, it's my understanding we're not ignoring this going forward. But we're going to try this first.
Vin, I don't know if this is proper, but can you actually make a request to us?
Request to well, I'm requesting.
Or like
It's on
just
the record.
reiterate it.
Well, so my request is that at this point, no action be taken by this body. I do think it's appropriate that you get monthly updates on what's going on, and I'm happy to have that done either through myself. I've been asked by the first selectman to come to your meetings. I'm happy to come. Don't know if you think you all seem to be operating fine. I don't know if you need me, but happy to come. And so if I'm going to be here under any circumstance, you know, I can provide you with those updates.
Are we good with that? Do we make a motion on this? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No, we don't,
Can we-
I don't think we need a
I
motion.
think we're good.
I don't think there's an action that's
I
necessary.
have another question. Excuse me if I feel like I'm being exposed to smoke and mirrors here.
I understand.
Is there any more work that is going to continue with any kind of excavation beyond blasting? Are we still excavating? Is the hole getting any bigger?
It's my understanding that there is not, I'm going to say, I don't believe, based upon what I've heard, that there's excavation going on in the sense of there being making a bigger hole. There's activity going on that is related to apparently stabilization of certain areas because of the jaggedness of the basin and in order to make it safe for workers down in the pit to work and to stabilize and to compact, there are certain things that need to be done. So there's activity. I was under the impression that trucks were coming in with material, that material was of a nature that might be of asphalt and was being processed and mixed with on-site material and then compacted. But why we want this as part of a regulatory process, because we need to know who, are they compacting it? How is it being compacted? Where's the oversight? I pointed out to the, was it Governor's Ridge over in Trumbull. When that development was being developed, the state, when they were doing Route 8, the state put all their debris as the foundation under that development. Big boulders, big rocks. It wasn't compacted properly, and the homes there are falling, the foundations are ripping apart because there was limited oversight, or the state just did what it wanted to do. We don't want to see that happen here. We don't want to see contamination, and we don't want to see future development compromised because of failures of correction. So, what I pointed out is that, there needs to be, soil erosion, there needs to be dust control, there needs to be hours of operation. There's a lot of issues that need to be addressed.
This is all this filling is above the water table? I mean, their excavation didn't go below the water
No
table?
way, 100
Oh,
feet
no.
down?
I feel like I'm in China
It's
down
like
there.
200
Yeah,
feet down.
no,
I mean,
yeah.
we're talking serious.
I know.
hole.
So it's below the the
Oh.
natural water
It
table?
emptied every wetland around it.
So I mean, my other concern is, I mean, if you're putting, who knows what in there, and the water table's gonna come up,
Mm.
you gotta make sure that eventually doesn't now contaminate water
we-
wells and you
We
can't.
pointed that out as well.
Who's doing the testing of the material coming in?
So, again, we want to, we are asking for certifications from knowing where the material came from and that it's free of contaminants. So, we also want to.
Chain of custody.
I beg your pardon?
Chain of custody?
Exactly, and so we need to be able to rely on something, no one has felt the need to go beyond that at this point. For example, there was material that came up from Stratford, I believe from the high school that they demolished there, and there was concerns there, but we then reached out to Stratford and got confirmation from Stratford that the material was remediated prior to demolition. So we're getting as much information that we can to protect the town's interests, because that's the best that we can do at this moment in time.
And their plan is to fill the hole.
Well, that's their stated plan, but again, it's 1.4.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're not gonna get pristine material, because pristine material's always got a place to go.
You're not gonna get completion. It's gonna take as long to complete as it probably was as long to construct, right? I mean, you're talking about a decade's work. Assuming they don't have other plans. Again, I don't know I don't believe anything until I see an application. All right, and I deal with everyone in good faith, but until I submit an application,
And the intent is that they're gonna come in, what's the next step? They're gonna come before us in the future with an application. And we review the application, if that application gets denied for whatever considerations,
that's the process.
right, that's the process, but then there's still the
Big hole.
violation that's out there.
There is,
So there's still a violation regardless of an application or not.
I just want to be careful using the word violation, in that, is there an active violation on the record? Or are we using the word violation?
Well, if
saying-
if they're not in compliance with the permits, which if they're 100 feet below where they were supposed to be. If they're acres beyond the footprint, that's, to me, is alleged violation. I don't know what you want to call
Well,
it.
they're not
but
compliant.
Non-compliant with the.
Non-compliant currently.
Right.
What we've chosen to do with the word violation is not use it unless it's actually an active violation, meaning an enforcement proceeding, because people perceive the word violation like differently. So, and some people will say, well, there are violations on that property. Well, no one's determined yet that there are violations. It's not compliant, and I suspect there would be violations. But until there's been an adjudication by someone that, which would be your enforcement officer.
Okay,
Right.
right, so if it's, so there's non-compliant issues out there, and, hypothetically, application comes in, it ends up getting denied, then what?
Then we have to take it to the next step. That, I don't want to speculate then what, because I don't know what, I think we have to take this process as it comes. We find ourselves where we find ourselves, and we'll end up wherever the regulatory process takes us.
There's one hole, actually there's several holes, but the one hole that I see right now is that the wetlands that were drained, the vernal pools that were drained, were not on this property. We cannot enforce, or we cannot request that an applicant do anything to an area that's not on his property. So
Those
we
are-
can't even ask for remediation of something that is not directly on his property. So we are left with a violation that can't be fixed.
Well, that's not necessarily,
You don't think so?
not necessarily the case.
You're
No,
saying
because
it
there's other regulatory entities out there that will likely be reviewing this, that can require off-site mitigation, that can require in lieu fee, basically money to the state. There's other methods of mitigation, but, and it's also, there's also off-site mitigation where you can have, been involved in projects where applicants are impacting wetlands on their site, but they decide to do the mitigation on town property where there's a degraded wetlands, or the pond,
Okay.
a pond needs to be dredged, or some, so there's different ways of handling some of those things, but.
So I appreciate the distress to the situation, and I wish I could stand before you saying something different at the moment, but I find, again, all I can request is that you give this process just a little bit of time, and then if it fails, we will at least have made effort to try to resolve it in a civil, less expensive way, and if it has to go in an alternative way, we will do so.
Okay.
I think the town has, the legal team is working on it, so it's not being disregarded, it's not being brushed under the rug. They're just asking
Just
for.
we've been asked to turn the cheek so many times that my head's spinning
But
around.
I think someday they're gonna be here, someday somebody's going to be here with a remedy, I would assume.
And I've only asked once.
Yeah. So, what do we do next?
We just move on.
That's
Table
it.
none, it's
We move
nothing,
on.
you're gonna table this until they come up with something right now.
And we're expecting a report every meeting?
Do you
How do we
want
feel
once a
about it?
month or once,
I think to make everybody feel, a
what I'll
little
do
bit
is
better
I'll
about
create a
it.
status report, and I'll present you with that status report, and as matters advance, I'll update the status report. So maybe some meetings where it's the same, and other meetings where it updates.
Excellent.
Okay?
Thank you.
You got it.
All right, moving on to,
That's for independence, it's
For
kind of
it's the
part with
same-
it,
oh,
so.
so
part
we're,
of-
so
yeah.
we're, so we're done. We're done there. We're going to status, updates, none, general discussion, other.
Wait, Donna has.
We
I'm
got
sorry.
a couple things.
Oh,
It's
no.
okay. No, actually, this is very easy. We sent out, remember Jake Keeler was the issue for 127 Main Street?
Yeah.
Jay dropped off a a letter today saying that, he is going to plant the area. We gave him the choice, so he's gonna plant the area, per the approved plans by October 1st.
Okay.
Okay?
Excellent.
Excellent.
And, do you have something else?
I have a couple.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Good one.
I do.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, we'll make them quick.
That's it.
Okay, homeowner came in, this is 32 Deer River Lane. Homeowner came in. We love these conservation easements, let me tell you. Bought the property when the house was built in 2000, septic is back here. Lawn was established almost to the edge of the wetlands. And that's what was approved when the CO was given. So now what do we do with, you have a new homeowner who's now thought she had lawn further back. I haven't violated her. I mean, all these people I've been talking to are willing to work with us, but I'm not even sure what way to lead them right now, because
They
They have
just
to
bought the
stop,
house?
they have to
They-
stop
they-
mowing and they need to put the signs, the stakes out.
they lose 30 feet of their backyard.
Well, it's,
That's a
You know,
big backyard.
Well, they shouldn't
they're
have had
going
that
into,
30
that's
feet.
going into the conservation easement. They can't. They
Again,
can't
it's-
keep mowing it. They can't touch anything back there.
And that's the way it was established in 2000 when the house was built.
And
And
this,
if-
and this I'm sorry,
Yeah.
this information is available when they're purchasing the property,
Exactly.
Now,
correct?
this one.
So it's a sort of bit of a buyer beware situation,
Right,
correct?
this one, and that's why I'm bringing it up, this one, the conservation easement was in the deed. The
Mhm.
next one I'm gonna show you, there was no mention of conservation easements
In the deed.
in the deed at all.
And when, just to throw
Then-
one
Well,
quick,
let's do one at a time.
No, and that's why I'm saying, the two properties are almost kinda connected, so.
okay,
but-
go, we wanna
Okay.
bring out the next
Well, I
one?
mean, that one, you know you gotta do. They can't do anything. They're gonna have to put
So,
up
well, that's why I want,
signs.
so, is she gonna have to come in with a remediation, or can we just say to her, stop mowing? Let's get the
Put the markers
conservation
up.
easement markers up, or something up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's why I'm asking, because it's like, do we wanna give her a violation, or can we,
Every
Work
50
with her.
feet
You
and
work with her.
Just
If
not
she,
maintain,
if she
and
works
not
with
maintain
you,
it.
great.
okay, hold
There
on.
should be some, wait a minute, for a conservation, we gotta be consistent here with other situations that we've done.
Right,
We
that's
can't
why-
just go
Well-
willy-nilly. What we've usually done in the past, besides the markers, is some kind of a physical demarcation that shows that that is a conservation easement.
So-
It could be a split rail fence, we've asked for stone walls, we've asked the homeowner to present something that they might be able to live with. But we have always done some kind of physical manifestation.
And
And
this
not
is-
consistent, then we set ourselves up for all kinds of issues.
You're right, I agree with you
Well,
100%.
that's why I'm asking, because I said to her that, you may have to put a split rail fence up, I get all the looks, but I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. Split rail fence, some big stones, something to demark it, or,
We
Yeah, but
prefer,
then there should be a plan.
less invasive.
Just this area?
it's what's in,
right
yeah,
here?
it's
Just
what's in the pink.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's that's a significant, when you look at the size of the house, that's a pretty significant section.
Yeah, her lot is, it's a rear lot, and this is
Yeah.
this is really all that could be developed.
It's too bad, but
Yeah, no,
You know,
I
what
understand.
you know what I
Do what
wanna
we
say
gotta
is
do.
people, call up your real estate agent and
Mm.
scream at them.
Well,
Because a good real estate
actually,
agent-
The attorney
she-
called.
Yeah, the attorney has called, and I have not gotten
How
back
did
to
I
her
miss
yet
that?
until I talked to you about this, so.
Yeah.
And we should have some kind of a plan. It could be, I
Well,
don't know.
So do you want a plan
You
submitted
could just say
here,
that
or do we
that the
want?
commission is consistent with how they handle these
Yeah,
impacts
could do
to
that.
conservation areas.
That could be, and if they agree to it, they can just get the agent approval, correct?
Isn't that?
we still need, I think we need
Well,
to.
this is
approve.
where-
It can be an informal approval, I believe, but, we need to see a plan
So do you
so
want
that
the NOV?
our staff can go out and see
Yeah.
that what was
No, no,
proposed
no,
was
not the
done.
vote.
This is important.
Okay. Whatever, let's, I think we should stick
Normally-
definitely to our current, what we generally do.
Okay, which would be that you issue the notice of violation, ask them to come in, and then you could discuss with them
Open discuss, yeah,
what
discuss with
you
them.
want to see remediated and
Mhm.
back and forth.
Which is what I want, I figured we would, but I wanna,
Yep.
okay, that's fine, hold on. I'll go through these quick.
Yeah.
I trust you. 120 Fan Hill, So this was Deer Hill. This is all one lot. He has already removed, he had a hoop structure here. He's planning on selling his property. Just found out that this was,
Right through the
conservation.
What is that?
It's a gravel driveway. I have got photos of this. It's a gravel driveway and, it's dirt.
What road is this?
This is off of Fan Hill. This is the property. He's all in the uplands. Believe it or not, it happened to be in the uplands, but it happened to be a conservation easement. Show you the photos.
But it's not even next to the house. Where does that go?
It's a very large,
You made a driveway?
he kind of made a driveway, years ago. He just kind of had some equipment out there, like a farm equipment, things like that.
Oh.
And now he's selling it off? How can
He
you sell
wants
it?
to sell his property, and so.
Oh, he wants to sell the, I thought you
And
meant
so
that
found
one
out
lot.
that
okay.
he has a
He needs to-
potential.
Notice violation, please come in and
Now, you said something about it not being on his deed?
This one was not on the deed.
Well,
Because-
How
then
did you
it-
find out there's a
How do we know there is
conservation?
one then?
Well, because the conservation map, the map for the other was on it, and it included this property, but when Wheeler Estate was done, it shows it on his property.
Was the
So
But
subdivision?
the
his-
overall subdivision plan was
But
presented.
his lot was already,
But-
established.
Well, then it's
But
not
they
on
put it
his-
over, but his deed never stated a conservation easement.
But if his
Was it-
property was already established and it's not on his deed, then it's not there.
Well,
Well-
my question, is it on the subdivision map?
Yeah.
Your name, please.
Oh, Vince Marino.
I feel like Crouch, I
Okay.
saying that, like, there's.
So this was a map that was filed.
Oh, my God.
This was a lot line revision
It
for
shows it.
2,000.
It shows it, but there was never anything put on the land records.
Doesn't need to be on the deed if it's on the map.
Yeah, if it
Mm.
refers
But-
to the map.
See, that's the thing, so that's,
The map is really
That's
takes
Perfect.
control over the deed.
That's our
perfect.
answer?
Nice.
Okay.
So letter of
So
violation?
they will get an
Same
NOD
thing
as
for
well.
them. Yeah.
See, Vin, we need you here.
Yeah, this is helpful.
Good.
Standard
I know where
practice.
I drive by it every day.
Okay, this is a quick one.
We got
No more?
No,
This is great.
I'll be done in 1 second.
No, too many conversations, the recording won't pick it up.
Sorry.
Okay, existing property. It's in foreclosure. I've had several people come to talk to me about this property. There is a pond back here that roughly, I kind of figured was back in 1965. It was dug out, it's man-made, it's maybe a foot deep. There was a well over here. Some people want to get rid of this pond. They're kind of asking some questions about what can they do. That's the old well. This,
A little bit of blight here.
yeah, and that's why they're asking these questions, because they need to kind of get back to their, establish the property, but then they have this pond. This is all overgrown prickers,
Where's the pond?
somewhere back here. This is kind of, see a little bit of the pond? It looks like roof leaders may have gone to it. This is an old copper pipe, then there's another clay pipe. And I also found a PVC pipe. And on the aerial, if I could get this bigger. Pond is kind of like right here. But this, this was back in,
Is this on the 86 map?
this is 85. The pond,
2015.
it was,
No, I'm asking, is it
Yeah.
on the 86 map when they
it
did the
looked like the
delineation?
pond was man-made in 1965.
So it predates the
So it
regulations.
predates the regulations, but it's, what the purpose of the pond, we don't know, but some people have asked,
Well, the
I
pond is
wanna-
there, so whether
Yeah.
the creation of it.
which is
would-
why.
Right, but it's there, so it's a regulated area.
Right, so some of them have questioned whether if it would be feasible, which is why the question is here, if they wanted to get rid of this pond, because it's only 12 inches deep.
The question is the pond
But it could be a-
associated, have abutting wetlands to it? In other, with no wetlands there?
Yeah, there's a stream back here.
That's the
So
closest
that
wetland.
Yeah,
far
but
away?
there's no soil scientist that delineated or investigated
None that I know.
around the pond,
Right,
so.
just based on what we know is there's a stream back here, and then
Mhm.
this pond was up here.
No, Can I
Have no
ask a
clue.
question I think it might help hopefully, at least it'll help me. If someone goes in their backyard, digs a hole and lets it fill up with water, at what point does that become a wetlands?
Right away.
Hydrophytic
Complete?
vegetation,
It's
Wait,
so-
if you
okay,
start-
so once the criteria is met.
yeah.
So if it, he creates a wetlands voluntarily, and then 5 years down the road, he goes, I got baby kids now, I don't want the wetland, he can't fill it
Well, he has to get a permit to.
Fill it
Yeah,
in.
Yeah.
Which is what-
But it's not like, it's changing a condition that was created, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's probably a pretty easy pass to do that. So does this fall into that?
Well, and that's what they're trying, because I've had two different people ask me the same question, because it's only a foot deep.
Yeah.
They're like,
that-
can I fill it
They're
in?
gonna have
Is
to
it
get a
something that
professional,
they?
they're gonna have to get a professional
It's-
look
right,
at it
we-
and make a determination if
it's on my
it's
That's
bank
quality
exactly what I was gonna
wetlands.
say.
So
They
this
come
is
in
all
based on-
people looking
It's just
at.
I think the simple answer should be, if there are any prospective buyers or bidders for a foreclosure, we, as a town, do not give out advice as to what they can do or cannot do, because that's not our job. And Fairfield got in trouble a long time ago and got tagged for about $1 million judgment for telling an owner that they could not subdivide their property, and then the building official said, you can't subdivide that, and the buyer subdivided it. And the seller sued the town and got money. So I always instruct, we don't give advice. They can hire their own professionals, they can purchase this property, and they can come forward and go through the regulatory process. Whether or not it can or it cannot, at this moment in time, I would submit you don't have enough information. For the reasons that Jeff raised, the problem we find is we go out of our way, and I applaud you for the effort of trying to help people and give them the information that they seek. But, we have to be careful because, something like this that seems like a non-issue could turn into, a bigger problem without more information. So I think what I would instruct people calling is that they're welcome to come to town hall, they're welcome to review the file, and if they have any questions, they can pose their questions, and if we can provide answers, we will. But whether or not that pond can be filled in is something that is not a yes or a no, and it's not a 5-minute. I think you would have to submit that they would have to they would have to become the owner, and they would have to file an application with their own professionals. The only thing is, if there's a violation here, I would say we might want to put the mortgage company on notice. Because
There's no violation on this.
okay, if there's no violation.
But no, if I know of any properties that have violations and they're owned by a bank,
Right.
they get a copy of it.
So, just another thought, if these people presented a plan where they would basically move it to another part of the property, would that suffice?
Why would you want
I
to do
get-
that?
Well, because it's in the middle of the yard, and they have a lot more space behind the house, so if they wanted to recreate the same
It's a
exact
very odd
environment,
lot.
not that far back, but you
No,
know
I'm
what I'm
just saying,
saying?
it's a very odd lot. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
very
why.
long and narrow, but if they wanted to recreate it farther back, because that's probably right off the back of the house, maybe they want a little bit of a yard, you know.
They'd have to propose
No,
it.
they have to propose it,
And
but
they'd
that's
have to-
something that's, is
yeah.
that something that's acceptable? I'm just asking a
We
question
have to-
generally.
There's so many different criteria
It
we have
depends.
to look at, though. We
No,
couldn't
I guess
just
they would
say-
have to present a plan, but I want to know if that's just something that is allowed.
We've never run into
It's
that.
Mr. Chairman, it would be a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Depends on,
So it's not out of the question of doing that.
nothing's ever out of the question.
I just didn't know if there was a thing where like, you know,
No,
swapping
people
it up.
relocate.
Okay,
wetlands,
all right, that was
absolutely.
basically what it is. So if you wanted to relocate it,
But
That's
at least I could say, we know that it's because of its history, it's considered a wetland, they're in upland review area, anything they want to do, they're gonna have to go in front of the commission.
That's
So-
exactly what you should say.
That's exactly
But
it.
that's why I wanna, yeah.
that was just curious, for my own curiosity. Okay, so we're
Okay.
ready? Are we, is that it, the last one?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Actually,
All
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
We got minutes yet.
No, I know, but Denise's last presentation.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
so now we're at, general discussion, minutes of August 28, 2019. Lois?
All right.
Mike?
On
That was funny.
page 4, on the other, about the 6th line down, Chairman Grady asked for a response be drafted listing the two options, the commission is agreeable to accepting. Two options will be to complete the plantings by October 1st, 2019 as agreed, or to hire a professional who will review the existing vegetation and report which ones are desirable, invasive, etc. And that was my only,
Okay. So we need a motion.
I'll
I
move,
make a motion that we accept the minutes with the changes by Lois.
Motion to accept by Clark, the second.
I'll second.
Second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Zero. Any absentees? Zero. Okay, none, rather, okay. Are we,
we have
regulation
the
amendment
regular,
committee?
actually, yes. Jeff and I had met a while ago and put together some concepts that I wanted to pass out, and perhaps the commission could look at them and think about them, see whether they like them or not. And, actually, it would behoove everybody to get a lot more acquainted with our regulations, because they really do direct what we do and the way we do it. So it's very important that we know them well, and at least have a basic understanding of them. So, these were just some suggestions, and you guys can have them too. And if you would look them over and bring back some ideas next time around, that would be awesome.
I also
And if there's
want.
anything on the back of your sheet, I apologize, because I use,
That's all right.
Recycled,
I
recycled,
use
that's good.
recycled paper.
Love it.
Yes.
Good,
Well, just to add to that, there's actually, three, I actually didn't want to bring it, I'm just gonna bring it up to overview real quick. There's three things that I want to try to work on with this, commission, but I didn't bring with me, and I don't want to make this meeting go any longer than it is right now, but there is some other things that will probably coincide with this. And basically, generally, is I want to see if we can make a way where a homeowner or even a small business owner inherits these violations, that they have maybe a little bit easier way of coming to us and not spending a ton of money hiring a bunch of professionals, if it's okay. If those conditions are something they can manage on their own and present to us, kind of come up with a separate package to save them the time and the money. If it's, we can all work on it together, but, a lot of these people are getting crucified, and if someone has the time and the wherewithal to do the research and ask the questions, they should be able to draw up something and present by themselves, and we still have to prove it like any other thing, but, I think it really gives a bad taste to a lot of people in the town that they buy this house, didn't know this at the time, and then they're faced with, paying an exorbitant amount of money to hire professionals. And if they can draw it themselves, and they can present it themselves, do the research and do the right presentation, shouldn't we be able to work with them in that way?
Well, I just, as a cautionary tale, what we just saw where the house was built in the wrong place because things were sort of drawn out on a napkin and there wasn't a set process and.
I have
So
a
you just-
well more
right.
thought out thing, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
with me.
so I
But
just- I'm
generally,
just
I'm
saying
saying,
that-
there's gonna be a
There's
whole.
a reason
yeah.
for the process.
No, it
That's
is
why
a
the year
process.
2000 to 2004, we've had
It
a
is
lot of
process, and-
violations.
and one thing I thought of is the conditions where, there will be conditions where they cannot present by themselves. There's gonna be certain things that they'll hit,
Yeah.
markers that they'll hit, and okay, this is not professional, so
Well, you know
it's a
what-
very long.
What you can do is try going through other towns' regulations and see if they have something like
Yeah.
that. Pirating is half of what we do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
exactly.
whole
So,
research to this whole thing, and I
yes,
broke it
yeah.
down into like concentrations that people
Find some
can.
wording
Well,
and see what you,
I'll bring it up in the next meeting, I just wanted
to.
to, I wanna touch on that because you did this thing here, which is great.
And then did you have two
And-
other ones?
What's that?
Two other things?
The other things were just about this, I wanna discuss, and not tonight, but about those plant extension things and the planting period. And we'll discuss another time, but those, nothing, I don't wanna bring it up. I just wanna say those
Okay.
are things that we're gonna discuss and see if we could, work with people, maybe change a couple things while we're going through this, that Lois presented. All right, so what's,
Guess what time
public
it
outreach?
is?
It's time,
There is no public
Adjournment.
outreach.
okay, there isn't? All right.
Move
It's
to adjourn.
9:51. I second, well, actually, hold on. Wait, one more thing. I just wanted to, I want to thank you for the nomination and the votes. I appreciate it. I'm glad to help out, you guys, the commission and the town. So thank you, and I want to let you guys know that I probably should have done this a while ago, but I actually.
You're resigning, aren't you?
One and done, one and done. I actually submitted a letter to the Monroe Town Clerk and the Board of Ethics from me, and I'll just read it to you because, it's public record anyways. To whom may concern, pleasing me to serve the community as Inland Wetlands Commissioner may be the perfect place for me to serve based on my history, experience, and expertise. Because I'm a site developer myself, there inevitably was going to be some circumstances where I must recuse myself. Per section 1-15 of the Town Ethics Code, I have disclosed that I have clients that will likely come before the board. They are Mitchell DeSo of Easton, Connecticut, and Robert Dunbar of Monroe, Connecticut. I will be recusing myself from any commissioner activities regarding my clients. So in that particular case, I think.
Is that, did you submit that because
submitted.
because there's an application coming, or
They're
just
likely
general?
coming, but
Oh.
these are my clients, I'm not gonna change I wanna help the town, but I'm not gonna change my business plan because I'm a commissioner here. And I think the way I wanna maybe make it happen is if one of those two clients is, and this is it. This is all, I'm not gonna work for anybody else that comes to this commission for any type of thing. So it's not like someone's gonna search me out or even beforehand say, hey, I got this project I really need you for, can you recuse yourself so that you could possibly work with me? I'm disclosing right now, these are the only two clients, okay? So what I think the fair way to make it happen is that if there's only one application from one of these two people, I will recuse myself at that time, come back. If there's more than one, which would most likely be a pretty good-sized meeting, meaning like if both of my clients are presenting one night, I will just let the vice chair run the meeting completely. So then I'm not constantly walking out of this position. One time I think is acceptable. It's not like these people are gonna be here every meeting. It's gonna happen once or twice, but just to come across with a plan now so we all understand it.
Okay.
So if we see that they're both presenting, you'll know that you'll start the meeting and end the meeting. Because according to our regulations, once you do start, you finish. Follow, you know what I mean? I
Right.
think that's the way it's written. So I think that's fair. Everybody think that's gonna work for everybody?
Fine, yeah.
All right.
How about for
motion.
engineers?
What?
How about the engineers that you work with, though?
I
Because many of them
believe
present in front of
we
us,
discussed
too.
it. It was discussed with, I think I discussed it with someone on the Board of Ethics. It's, it was explained to me this way, maybe Vin, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but, if you go to buy a can of paint from Home Depot, every time it doesn't mean you can't preside over an application from them. So, yes, I do have an engineer that works for me that presents here often. But, it's just not, I don't know, do you think there's?
Just, in Marino, special land use council. I thought there was a motion to adjourn, I'm sorry. The short answer is, and I just want to correct you, it doesn't work for you, it works with you, right? I mean, it's, in other words,
No,
not
I've hired-
under your company, like, it's an engineer within your company?
No.
Right, so it's someone you work with. But
I've hired him.
you hire, right, like
to
you'd hire a
and
lawyer.
he
So
will
doesn't-
present.
He's not your employee.
Well, now here, let me just clarify this. As you guys know, I'm a developer. The property that I own, what? I'm a developer in town.
I didn't know
The
that.
property that I actually own in town does not have wetlands on it. So the property that I actually own is never, I don't think is ever coming here for any type of hearing. So my own personal interest.
It's because he filled them in.
What?
So, generally speaking, and it goes for everyone, with respect to conflicts, it's, at the municipal level, it's whether or not there's an actual conflict or the appearance of a conflict, right? Because the intention is to maintain the integrity of the public in the system. So, you should always err on the side, my advice is err on the side of recusal if there's a question, because the pay isn't worth putting yourself in the middle of the controversy.
Yeah.
right? So, and generally, when those conflicts arise, they're gonna be on more complex matters.
Yeah.
That you're really not gonna wanna create an appealable issue.
And
With respect, but the rules of ethics are different than the conflicts, saying that, and I haven't reviewed the rules for purposes of this conversation, so I would defer to whatever you received from the Ethics Commission at the moment, but I'm happy to take a look at it. But I'd err to say that you should not be presiding over anything where you may have a pecuniary interest or anyone that is related or associated with you in the way of employment. I don't think that's been my lawyer before.
Yeah.
And so I have to recuse myself.
But he
Yeah,
also,
I mean, the
he
same
also
thing-
is not allowed to present to the commission either.
Who's that?
Me.
As a
As
owner of property, so you
For
all.
himself,
For
he
himself.
can, but he can as
Developer.
I'm gonna say that is gonna, every town is gonna be different on the rules, so I have not looked into that issue. Some towns have ordinances that say that specifically, others do not. I'm unaware of a specific statute that precludes a commissioner from presenting. I think it's bad form, and I would recommend against it. Some towns have adopted ordinances that say you cannot. I don't know if this town has such a ordinance. So
But again, my property has no wetlands on it, so
Right.
I don't think I'll be coming. And if someday I invest in land that has wetlands on it, we'll address it at the time, but I don't see that happening for quite a long time, because I got my hands full where I am right now.
Excellent. Well,
And
and again, if you want me to look at anything, I will. Otherwise, if there are any other questions, I'll.
no, the other thing I want to mention alongside with this is that, I expect to be held to the highest of standards when I do any work on my clients' projects. So I do not expect anything, like any leniency or anything. I mean, I
You
plan to
will
do.
not receive any.
What?
You will not receive.
I will not receive any, and I plan to be like, to wow you guys, wow, what a great job, that's just my personal, code to do. So, with that, we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll restate my motion to
I
adjourn.
second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No,
I
we-
seconded
All right,
it.
we have a motion from Lois to adjourn, a second from Clark. All in favor? Any
Yes.
against?
We're all good.
All right, this meeting is closed.